storm came right through the Greenville area, then to Raymer, and now moving through Troy to Union Spring. Within this area, it's Bullock and Pike that has a severe thunderstorm warning. And at times, we've seen some rotation, maybe enough to give you a tornado. Look at the flow coming up ahead of this storm, the rain that we do have on the radar going south to north, and yet our storm is going west to east. You can feel the atmosphere spinning across this area. So considering that, we'll take a quick look at the rotation, and this is starting to tighten up again just outside of Troy. So there's no tag on this yet from the National Weather Service suggesting that there's an imminent tornado threat, but severe thunderstorms can and sometimes do give you tornadoes. And here's the green color going towards the radar and red going away. So, Jackie, that is our counterclockwise spin. That is definitely something that we'll need to monitor in case it continues to tighten up over the next half hour or so.
Yeah, the chance of tornadoes just goes up, especially as we head into tomorrow. We just can't emphasize enough that now is the time to think about this and to prepare for this. This includes about 6 million people and some big metropolitan areas as well in the next 24 hours. Memphis, Birmingham, Jackson, Mississippi, you're all at a Torcon of 7. So a Torcon is our scale for the threat and the risk of tornadoes. It goes all the way up to 10. The higher the number, the higher the risk. So 7 is really substantial, which means it's likely that there will be tornado watches issued tomorrow, and it's likely that there'll be tornado warnings issued as well. So Memphis, you're smack dab in the middle of this. Today is your day to enjoy, to get outside, to relax a little bit, to get your plan in place, chat it up with your family, your neighbors, your friends, and make sure that everyone's aware of this tornado risk. So let's talk timing for this for you, Memphis, and keep in mind that this is a window of opportunity. This is not a moment in time where there could be a tornado. It's hours long that you're going to be under the risk. And I really think 7A to 7P is kind of a decent window to have in mind for you, Memphis. There you can see the bright pink color. That's indicating the 7. This is the number 7 for the Torcon. But notice up towards your north, the numbers are 5. But all the way down to your south into Mississippi, you're also at a 7. That includes you in Oxford, Mississippi. Timing things out. This is 4 o'clock in the morning. So while you're sleeping overnight tonight into tomorrow morning, 4 a.m. And you can see some showers and thunderstorms tracking most likely to your south. But notice how they begin kind of lifting into the region, become a little bit more widespread. By late morning, those will be coming in from Arkansas and crossing the river and moving into western parts of Tennessee. Perhaps a break in the action for lunchtime or the middle of the afternoon, but can't even guarantee that as conditions become more favorable later in the day. And that's when the line of thunderstorms with embedded tornadoes potentially would be moving through. So there's a future radar. 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night, and then tracking off towards your east and finally beginning to wind down. Birmingham, another one of those areas that's at a number 7. But Mark, you know, keep in mind, Birmingham has storms today as well. So don't want to mix the messages, as you kind of pointed out earlier, is that while we've got a risk today, tomorrow is really the big day. And this may be happening after dark, right?
Oh, gosh.
9 p.m. to 1 or 2 a.m.
It's all the bad things, right?
Yeah.
We know the social science when you're looking at a place like Raleigh with rain right now and temperatures as cold as they are. The social science says, okay, we don't handle that as well. We don't think that there's going to be severe weather when it doesn't feel like severe weather, when it's not sunny and clear and hot and sticky. But yet, places like Raleigh will have severe weather Thursday. Places like Birmingham will have severe weather tomorrow, even as it's cloudy and rainy now. And it's because the setup is going to change. That front is lifting north. You'll have a giant warm sector. And Thursday, with that front moving in, here, too, we will expand the severe weather threat. Our area of low pressure kind of lags back on Thursday, and near that low, there will be the chance for some storms. That's why that area of red was extending back into the Ohio Valley. But, you know, more organized right along the East Coast, where the air mass becomes unstable on Thursday. The later we go, the more daytime heating we'll get, and the more time after that front lifts off and clears you through before the cold front slams in. There will be plenty of spin. So if we get storms, then they will start to rotate. It's more of a conditional threat here on Thursday. At the surface, they're coming up from the south at 5,000 feet up out of the southwest. and very strong winds aloft for Thursday here across the southeast. So any storm that gets tall enough will be able to kind of rain through that wind, push it all the way down to the surface, and give you a straight line wind threat. So more of you will see severe thunderstorm warnings than tornado warnings on Thursday, but we can't rule out some rotation, especially near that boundary or near the coastal Carolinas. We'll be right back.
How great is
Welcome back to Weather Center Live, everybody. We are tracking thunderstorms across parts of the Deep South. They've been bringing heavy rain, flash flooding, and even a few severe thunderstorm warnings today. So this really stretches from Georgia all the way back into Louisiana. We have a frontal boundary, and south of there is where conditions are most favorable for thunderstorms. And these are training as well. And so some of the same areas getting hit over and over the last couple of hours. This is the main cell that we've been watching for quite some time, well over an hour. It has a history of showing a little bit of rotation here and there. We're not really seeing the signs of that right now, but quarter-size hail, a good possibility. Frequent lightning with this. You can see just how electric that storm is right now, but also winds in excess of 60 miles per hour could cause some damage. So you need to stay indoors in a sturdy shelter. Bullock and Pike counties, this is in effect for you here in southern Alabama until 3 o'clock local time. There you can see Highway 29. So that's what it's about to cross right at this moment. So if you know anybody that's traveling along there, make sure that they get the word. So yeah, this is the wind mode or the velocity mode where the red and the green, if we see them coming together, indicating any rotation, not really seeing that at this time. Flash flood warning, Choctaw and Clark. This is where we've had as much as 2 to 4 inches of rainfall with rounds of rain coming on through. There are some reports of county roads that have taken on water. So if you absolutely have to travel, make sure you find an alternate route if you encounter water over the roadway. You never know how deep it is. And Camden, we're also getting some reports in Wilcox County of a few roads taking on water. That's a flash flood warning in effect until 5:30. So this whole broad area, something we're watching throughout the rest of the afternoon. But it's later tonight when we're concerned about severe weather firing up along the dry line in that warm sector from Oklahoma City down towards Dallas. And these are going to continue overnight into early tomorrow morning. Mark?
And gosh, there is a reason to be concerned, especially as we look ahead to tomorrow. This is the Little Rock area. Look at that map. Bright pink, 7 on the Torcon. That's not just a possibility, that's a likelihood of tornadoes, including Little Rock. Little Rock on the right side of your screen, roads are fine now. There's not that much going on now, but things are going to change, and change in a big way. Big hail, gusty winds, and tornadoes are all possible. So yes, many areas have a 7 out of 10, but any number on the Torcon means that there is a risk. If it's not 0, it means that there's a chance. New Orleans, a 3. Mobile, a 3, getting away from the Gulf, and Huntsville, a 5. And then again, we can show you the broad view in between those those cities, right? Maybe you're not this far north, maybe you're not this far south, then 5 to 7 on the Torcon. My goodness, this is a bad weather setup by all measures for the southeast for tomorrow. Very likely that we'll see severe weather, even if it's not tornadoes. And that's because of this. We've got a lot of very strong winds aloft coming in behind this front. So the front's going to have gusty winds. Probably everyone along this front is going to have some sort of warning, severe thunderstorm warning or otherwise. There's plenty of available energy to get those storms going, and there's plenty of wind aloft to bring down towards the surface. But what about the tornado potential? Well, at the surface, winds are going to be coming up out of the Gulf, south, maybe even southeast winds, depending on where exactly you are. 5,000 feet up, which is not that far off the deck, coming out of the south-southwest, a big turn in a short period of time. So the storms are going to be rotating like crazy. And that means that some of them are going to be able to ingest that spin. The right downdraft will be there at the wrong time, if you will, and kick up tornadoes and kick up that spin. I know we're showing you Memphis here, but that dot could be Jackson. It could be Huntsville. It could be Birmingham. It could be Little Rock. They're all basically the same. South winds at the surface, picking up to a different wind direction with faster winds aloft, and that will give us severe weather. Jackie, people need to know that this risk is on the way. At this point, they have to be thinking about their plans.
Yes, and so what is that plan, and where do you go when the warning happens? And what is a warning, for that matter, right? I think a lot of people get confused between a watch and a warning. Here's what I tell my kids. If I ever do school talk, I'll say a watch means watch out. A warning means take cover now. That's the big takeaway. That's what you should teach your kids. A watch means to watch out for the possibility. A warning means hunker down, take cover. So for a tornado, watch means conditions are favorable. It means the atmosphere is ripe and ready and that tornadoes could happen at any time. And a warning means that a tornado is actually occurring or it's imminent and that you need to seek shelter. So where is that shelter? Where is the best place for you to be? If you don't have one in your home, by the way, for example, manufactured homes, mobile homes are not a safe place to be. Do not take shelter there. I was looking at Tuscaloosa County, for example, in Alabama. They've got a list of shelters and dots so you can find the one that's closest to your home that are open to the public so you have a safe place to go. All right, a basement is best. Basement is always best. Where in the basement is the best place to be? An interior room, as many barriers between you and the outside of your home as possible. So maybe a bathroom, maybe a stairwell. The lowest level of your home, if you don't have a basement, of course, away from doors and windows, and stay there until the warning expires.
Tornado coming down.
Oh, there you can hear it. People
right
actually
here. We're
seeing
at,
that funnel. This is a tornado outside of the Kansas City suburbs here, and this is what folks had to deal with yesterday. The National Weather Service confirming that this was an EF0 tornado that touched down and did cause a little bit of damage. No injuries with this, so keep in mind if it's a funnel, it's up in the air, that's called a funnel cloud, right? If it touches the ground, that's when it causes damage and becomes a tornado.
Some other views of this for you as well. This from the Overland Park area, but looking to the south, just outside Overland Park, where this storm was tracking through and where the National Weather Service then sent out those survey teams. An ominous sky for sure when you see that kind of lowering. Wall cloud there, then the funnel, and it looks like it extends all the way down to the ground from this vantage point as well. And then we do this all again. The center of the country really lights up with the potential for storms as we work our way through the overnight tonight into tomorrow. Tomorrow's a serious weather day. Through the day, into the night. Right now, Torcon of 7 from Little Rock to Jackson to Montgomery to Birmingham to Memphis and everywhere in between. Jackie, now's the time that everyone really needs to start making that plan, that mental plan for where they will be with severe weather on the way tomorrow.
Yeah, we just can't show that graphic enough, right? Over and over again. Take a picture of it with your phone if that's what you need to do, and make sure all your people are aware and that they know what's coming. Memphis, you are smack dab in the middle of this, right? You're on the high end of the tornado threat. You've got a Torcon value of 7 tomorrow on a scale that goes up to 10. So that means a tornado watch is likely. It means tornado warnings, at least in the vicinity, are going to be likely. Tomorrow is a weather alert day. We're talking 7 to 7 maybe as your main window. And it's not, a moment in time. It is that entire period of time where you need to be on alert. But we want to start out with today's threat because, yes, today, actually really tonight, is when we're going to be concerned about it in the plains. Oklahoma City, you're 76 degrees. It's a gorgeous day right now, but you've got a Torcon of 3, especially after the sun goes down. So Storm Specialist Mark Elliott is here taking a closer look. We're waiting on that lift coming in from that upper low from the west.
Yeah, it's going to get there. And so because of that, we have to divide up the severe weather threat in two today, kind of 2 different phases. The one to the west starts off a little bit later. We can show you that into the center of the country. We've got this chance for big storms tonight, late this afternoon, into tonight and overnight. And then all of this, well, that's from an old front that's already begun. So already we've got some of these storms across the southeast. That's for the rest of the day into tonight. A very dangerous setup over the next couple of days. So here's that old boundary, draped through the southeast, kind of like this. But notice this back edge starting to lift, right? There's already some signs that that stationary boundary is turning back into a warm front, and we're going to start to see that lifting north. That's how we get places like Little Rock and places like Memphis back into the severe threat as early as tomorrow. The atmosphere is going to recharge basically through the overnight hours. We've been watching some big storms in southeast Alabama, southeast of Montgomery. No severe thunderstorm warning on this at the moment, although you can make the argument that that's a little bit surprising. There's some little notching features going on, and within both of those, there's some rotation. In fact, this one becoming tighter and tighter would not surprise me if we actually need a warning, severe thunderstorm, or even tornado warning here. So if you're in Clayton, please watch that storm very carefully. It's generally headed towards you from the west, and there could be some rotation there. There could be a tornado that does set up. Then the rest of the area of Alabama west of Montgomery still has flooding concerns. I-20 in Mississippi and into Louisiana, Jackie, seeing thunderstorm development now as well as that warm front starts lifting north.
And, you know, we've already had severe weather this week, haven't we? Yeah, take a look at this. Damaging tornadoes happened near Kansas City. This is what we were tracking yesterday, remember? Almost about this time in the afternoon right here on Weather Center Live. This looks like a funnel cloud to me. You can kind of see that lowering in the middle of your screen there. It indeed turned out to be a tornado. Here's a look at this from another angle.
Oh, there it is. There's another one. No, that's rain. No, look at it. You see the point?
It can be confusing sometimes, right? Because there's all different kinds of cloud features that can be low and hanging. So it really does take a trained eye. Make sure that you just trust the warnings. The tornadoes that we're expecting to see, especially late tonight and into tomorrow and tomorrow night, are going to be difficult to see. They could be wrapped in rain. We've got hillier terrain across parts of the south compared to what we have here into the plains. We've got a lot of trees, the tree canopy, which becomes an issue. So just if you hear the siren, if you get the alert on your phone, get to your safe place immediately. Storms can be dangerous without tornadoes. It doesn't take a tornado to be a problem, right? This is what it looked like in Warrensburg, Missouri. This is just east of Kansas City during yesterday's tornado warning. While there wasn't a tornado reported here, they did get reports of large hail in the area. So tornadoes, large hail, damaging winds, frequent lightning, flash flooding, we've got it all. It is the potpourri of severe weather, and those chances are there tonight. They're there tomorrow. They're there Thursday. This is a multi-day severe weather threat. So Mark just covered where the active weather is right now across the southeast and where our best chances are for getting severe thunderstorms along the boundary into the southeast. Let's focus now more about what's coming yet tonight. And we're talking about southern parts of Kansas through almost all of the state of Oklahoma, stretching down through Texas, including Austin, including DFW. And the greatest likelihood of severe weather, by the way, up here near the state line of Oklahoma and Kansas. We think that's where the big hail makers are going to be firing on up. But tornadoes are possible too in the warm sector. And we've got torcons of 2 and 3. So on a scale up to 10, it's not a huge number, but hey, if a tornado happens and touches down next to you or over your home, that is a huge deal. So Oklahoma City, Lawton, Dallas, Shreveport, Texarkana, you are all at a 3. Little Rock's at a 2 already for tonight, and then it goes up later tomorrow. So Oklahoma City, let's time this out for you. This is our future radar. Look at the timing. 1 o'clock in the morning. Look up there near Enid. We're seeing signs of the models thinking they're going to be supercells that are going to be developing that could produce the hail as well as maybe a few tornadoes. And then clustering of thunderstorms will continue through early into the morning on your Wednesday, and then Wednesday afternoon, you're looking a little bit better. Dallas, we're looking at a window of opportunity. Few thunderstorms could get going yet this evening, but I think the most likely time of getting severe thunderstorms pushed through is going to be between midnight and about 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. Look at that. This may be hitting right during the early morning rush. So if you're one of those people that leave around 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, think now about potentially delaying that and waiting until these storms pass. So
That
that's
is-
tomorrow
that is-
morning.
That is not a restful night.
Early. No, probably not, right? Especially if you have like a dog or
Yeah.
kids that get scared from the thunderstorms. But we've got another rough night ahead of us after that.
Absolutely, because the storms leave Dallas, and that whole line works its way even farther off towards the east into all of these areas, not just a couple of areas, all of these areas are at play. Little Rock, Memphis, Mobile, maybe by overnight tomorrow, the Atlanta area. It's going to take its time to move across the southeast, but gosh, its presence will be known. This is a very, very dangerous setup across the south for tomorrow. Let's call out a couple of these cities again by looking at your torcons, meaning how likely is it on a scale of 1 to 10 that you'll see tornadoes nearby? Well, Memphis, Birmingham, Jackson, all at 7. There is an outside chance that as the Storm Prediction Center looks at this for the overnight update, which happens somewhere around midnight, that this could actually go up even a little bit more in a smaller area. So I think at this point, this 5 to 7 zone is pretty much baked in. Could there be some wiggle room off to the west or to the north, depending on how far that warm front lifts back north? Sure. But I think the bigger risk to changing is that somewhere within this zone could actually be given a 9. Okay? If we get to that point where, you know, all the conditions are still coming together and the model consensus is even in better agreement and those winds shifting with height become a little bit stronger and the shift becomes a little bit greater, we could see this brought up to what's known as a high risk day. We're not there yet, but tune back in, because you need to know this risk. You need to know what's coming your way. Even without tornadoes, it's very likely that we're going to see severe weather tomorrow. Gusty straight line winds for everybody in this line. If this cold front comes through you, you are almost guaranteed a severe thunderstorm warning, because there's a lot of very strong winds aloft behind this system, and the rain will be coming down through that and pushing that down to the ground. But there's also going to be shifting winds with height, so plenty of energy for storms to happen. Lots of winds at the surface coming out of the south, but stronger winds, considerably stronger, just about 5,000 feet up, and then they're coming out of the southwest. That's enough spin, that's enough turn with height to get these storms rotating, and I think, unfortunately, we're going to see exactly that. Here's that example, Memphis or Jackson or Huntsville or Birmingham or Little Rock or, you know, maybe portions of northern Louisiana. Anyone in there has this same setup. South or southeast winds at the surface, very strong south-southwest winds at 5,000 feet up. That's going to make our storm start to rotate, and the models are picking up on this. Look at how this warm front lifts north, so that's our warm front by 9 a.m. If you're south of there, you're now in the warm sector, and that warm sector blossoms with severe storms. These could all have rotation throughout the main afternoon hours of Wednesday, and here's our cold front. That cold front, in certain setups, if the winds are all in kind of the same direction with height, you get very strong straight line wind events with a setup like this. But with the spin that we have, Jackie, I think we're going to have individual storms along that front. So widespread tornado warnings along the cold front and out ahead of it. Whew, the National Weather Service offices are going to be busy.
Yeah, long day and a long night and a long window of opportunity, right?
Hours.
So the science is there to say the likelihood is high.
Yes.
But the science isn't there to say there's going to be a tornado over Little Rock
Can't
at
say
7
exactly
p.m.
which county or exactly which minute, but
Right.
the theme is there, and it's not a good theme.
So we're hoping for maybe 20-minute windows where warnings happens and we get advanced warning, and then you have time to seek shelter and get to your safe place, the lowest level of your home, away from doors and windows. Remember, a watch means watch conditions are possible. A warning means take cover now. Timing it out and talking about this window of opportunity, so to speak. Little Rock, you've got the torcon of 7. West of there, over towards Hot Springs and into Pottsville, your torcons are a 5. 5 is still sizable, right? That's like flipping a coin. You've got a 50-50 shot at it. So let's talk timing as storms begin to roll on through. And this begins overnight tonight towards early tomorrow morning. Notice some widespread showers and thunderstorms kind of scattered across the region. And then a break in the action is going to be developing. So you're not going to have severe storm all day long. There are going to be multiple waves or opportunities of this coming in. Greenbrier, Pottsville, maybe around 2, 3 o'clock into the afternoon. And then here comes that line on the back end of it that Mark was talking about that could have embedded tornadoes within that. That's a tough line to escape. I don't know that you're going to escape that one, right? So watch for that to move through maybe between 3 and 5 o'clock into the afternoon for tomorrow. By 8 o'clock, this should all be pushing off towards your east. What about Birmingham? Birmingham, you're in the same boat in terms of your Torcon risk. You're at a 7 here all across central Alabama. Showers and thunderstorms. We know you're active and unsettled right now. You'll likely see storms already in the early morning hours for tomorrow. Models are indicating a lot of activity up towards your north. We think as that warm front kind of lifts up just a little bit, and then more supercells likely to develop into the afternoon that could be producing hail as well as tornadoes. And then that main line is likely not to come until late at night. While we could have severe weather really at any given time during the day tomorrow, Birmingham, I really think tomorrow evening and tomorrow night is when conditions will likely be most dangerous. So here's a look at that line moving through until maybe 2, 3 o'clock in the morning before things begin to settle down. If a tornado has been spotted or indicated by weather radar, you need to seek shelter immediately. And if you're left with no choice but to stay in your home, meteorologist Alex Wilson explains where the safest place is.
If you must stay, you'll need to prepare beforehand. The light weight that makes mobile homes easy to move is also what makes them unsafe in severe weather. It's best to make your mobile home not so mobile by anchoring it to a concrete foundation. The next best option is to attach the home to beams driven into the ground. Anchor down any outdoor structures like swing sets or sheds. Use metal brackets to anchor furniture to the wall. Add wires or cables to secure larger objects like fridges or water heaters. Remember, your best defense is early warning. Make sure you have a weather radio. Single-story and two-story homes are quite similar. You'll want to stay as close to the ground as possible. Basements are ideal, but if that isn't an option, stay on the ground floor. Hallways and closets under the stairs can be good choices. Make sure you're away from doors, windows, and outside walls. No matter what type of house you live in, your safest bet in severe weather is an underground shelter.
Thank you, Alex. You know, we talked about the severe weather beginning in the center of the country tonight, the southeast tomorrow. Well, by Thursday, it's here in Charleston, which here, too, it doesn't really feel like severe weather. Overcast skies, temperatures in the mid-50s. It is cold by Charleston standards, really, the way it's been over the past couple of days anyway, and it's kind of unsettled and cloudy and drizzly. Well, that same front is lifting north of town. You'll be in the warm sector by Thursday, and so as the cold front approaches, yes, here too, we will see the chance for severe storms. So we've got the front that's approaching from the west, but it ties back to an area of low pressure up here, so that's why this area also has a chance for some strong storms on Thursday. That's where that low pressure area will be going. Ahead of the cold front, behind the warm front, there'll be more than enough instability growing, enough warmth, enough moisture there to help to give us some thunderstorms. And also here, shifting winds with height. So we will have at least the chance of organized storms that could be rotating and a lot of straight line wind damage as well.
It was just living in the moment of disbelief.
Oh my God!
We really were caught off guard.
We couldn't leave. We were stuck there.
There was going to be nothing we could do except try to make it through safely.
That is the most scared that I have felt in my life.
Oh my God!
It's surreal.
Holy!
We are following some big storms already across the southeast. Now, this is not the big show for tomorrow. Tomorrow's severe weather is going to be extremely dangerous, so don't put your guard down just because there are storms today. But I do need to show you where the storms are for now as well. There is an old boundary draped across the southeast. This kind of back edge of this boundary is starting to act more like a warm front, starting to lift north. That's going to allow for all that Gulf of Mexico warmth and moisture to come back into the southeast and set the stage for tomorrow. But before we get there, we have to talk about the storms that are along that front. And that includes this one in southeast Alabama, approaching the Georgia border. It's been holding its own. No warning at the moment, but you could make the argument that maybe it still should have one. Let's get a little bit closer in here. Look at how this storm is curling out here, but notching in right there. Sometimes that indicates a little bit of extra spin within that area, and that is right in here. Okay, so you have very straight line winds coming this way, but air bending back in and around. There could be a spin-up tornado on this due south of Union Spring headed towards Clayton. I want you to watch this carefully if you're just over the Georgia border from Alabama in the Clayton area. That storm could be severe with straight line winds and possibly a spin-up tornado. If that doesn't do it, how about the storms along I-20? They're starting to bubble up as well. And along eastern Louisiana, some big storms heading towards the Mississippi River Valley. So, Jackie, it's an active afternoon, only getting busier from here.
Yeah, tomorrow we think much more active in the afternoon, but also in the nighttime hours and the morning hours, in fact, as well. Here's an update on some of our Torcon numbers for a few specific cities. Huntsville, Alabama, you've got a Torcon of 5. Mobile, Alabama, a 3. And New Orleans, Louisiana, a 3. The higher the number, the higher the risk. A 3, you might be saying, that's not too bad. If there's a number, there is a risk. It's there for a reason, and you need to be weather alert tomorrow. Well, the severe weather threat today and tomorrow is mostly in the southeast. It's an area also known as Dixie Alley. Dixie Alley tornadoes can be even more dangerous than those in Tornado Alley. Meteorologist Chris Warren explains why.
Tornadoes can and do occur in every state. While that's true, we are seeing more and more twisters hit the southeast U.S., or Dixie Alley. And sadly, also more deaths.
She was a woman of faith, and she was a bright light for our family.
Scientists have identified a greater societal vulnerability in Dixie Alley relative to Tornado Alley in the plains. Now, there are a lot of reasons for that. One of them is a greater incidence of nocturnal tornadoes. Another is a higher prevalence of tree cover, and so it's much harder to see the tornadoes coming. And another is a greater mobile home density in the southeast.
Lots of trees and forests definitely make tornadoes more dangerous, as with those that hit when it's dark. And there tends to be more nighttime tornadoes in the southeast.
Nocturnal tornadoes are more deadly because people are asleep, generally. That's the long and short of it. People do often have ways to be notified, but they're not actively pursuing what's going on in the weather, and it can come as a surprise. And so, generally speaking, it's about 2.5 times more deadly to have a tornado at night.
Add in increased population and that mobile home density. The percentage of mobile or manufactured homes in the southeast is far greater than the typical tornado alley. Researchers say the potential for a tornado mobile home impact is 350% greater in, let's say, Alabama versus Kansas. And as we've seen many times in the past, more deaths occur in mobile homes than solid structures. Staying safe comes down to awareness.
You need to be expecting the possibility of tornadoes. Monitor the weather, see what the forecast is, not just for today, but check the weather every day to see what it's going to be the next few days, so that when you get those days when the conditions are all coming together or are predicted to be so, you're then really going into vigilant mode, monitoring to see if you need to be taking shelter. Know where to go if you're at home, if you're at work, if you're caught out in the highways, know what to do if a tornado is heading toward you.
We just all hovered into the bathroom, and I mean, It seemed like it took a long time, but actually it probably wasn't 30 seconds or no longer than 40 seconds. It was over with.
It's just a great community. I wouldn't want to live nowhere else in the world.
So you need to know when a severe weather threat is coming your way, and that can include flash flooding, especially if you've recently been near this. The Ohio River system has been over its banks for a while now. You can see the dock there floating downstream. That's never what you want to see. So areas of Kentucky in particular had a lot of rain. There's still a flood risk as we go through the next couple of days, not only a tornado risk and a wind threat, but also heavy rain threat as well. Look at the repeated thunderstorms here across the south. So how could you not see more flooding? There's been flooding that's been happening, and then that all ties back to our developing system in the center of the country, which then goes right back into the flood-ravaged Ohio Valley and the soggy southeast.
Take a look at this. Yep, it was a tornado. It struck a Kansas City suburb yesterday evening. It damaged several homes, knocking down trees. This morning, the National Weather Service survey teams confirmed that it was indeed an EF0 tornado that caused the damage that you see here. So even weak tornadoes can touch down and cause issues. Thankfully, nobody was injured in this. All right, it has been an active day already, and we've been tracking showers and thunderstorms, a few of which have reached severe limits across parts of the deep south. And this is the main risk area. We're looking at active weather within the next couple of hours. The plains, things are going to kick in later on tonight. I'll show you that in just a second. But we've got a brand new severe thunderstorm warning that I want to update you on. This is for Franklin and for Madison, including the city of Baskin and Winnsboro. That warning in effect until 4:15 Central Time. So there you can see the cell, which is moving in from the south, heading on up towards the north. And there's a lot of lightning with it. It may be producing some damaging winds heading right towards Winnsboro. So if you live in there, make sure you get to your safe place as we speak. We'll take you out to the broader view. That's it. Did I mention that's in Louisiana, by the way? That's in Louisiana. Here's Jackson, too, into Mississippi. No warnings here, but notice how we're starting to see more thunderstorms beginning to fire up with a lot of lightning. We'll take you farther to the east because we've been tracking a thunderstorm that has a history of having warnings on it. No warning right now west of Eufaula, but we're seeing a lot of lightning, some heavy downpours. Winds could be maybe 30, 40 miles per hour with this. So just a heads up if as this pulls out of Alabama and works its way over towards Georgia. And then thunderstorms have been repeating themselves across southern Alabama. And we've had quite a few flash flood warnings. Still Choctaw and Clark, you still have your flash flood warning in effect until 5:15. So still a ways to go with that. Also Camden, you're included still under this flash flood warning for Wilcox County. A couple of county roads have been reporting that they have water over them. So if you absolutely have to travel, make sure you avoid it and just turn around and find an alternate route. Radar's pretty quiet right now across the Plains states, but severe weather we think is going to be developing here, especially after sundown. That's when we're going to start to get those really strong winds begin to crank in out of the south. We'll get more lift coming in from our low off towards the west, and we've got torcons of 2 and 3 across this region right now. So those numbers are pretty low, Mark, but if there's a number, we got a concern, and we could see some really big hail with thunderstorms tonight here too.
Yeah, and gosh, only tomorrow's forecast would make a 3 on the Torcon look like not a big deal.
Yeah.
On any other day, a 3 is like, okay, here we go. There's going to be some tornadoes because that's what the 3 means, right? Maybe not everyone getting a tornado, but some. Tomorrow, 7s. So, gosh, that might mean everybody gets a tornado nearby enough to at least need to pay attention, Birmingham. The streets are fine right now, but probably not staying that way for tomorrow. Again, big storm potential here. Here's a look at the ingredients that we kind of monitor for. And the most important to me on this list for tomorrow is this top line. The shear, the different winds, the direction of those winds and speed of those speed of those winds with height. That is high on the list. Sometimes when shear is high, it can even overcompensate for lower amounts of the ingredients otherwise on the list, but everything is coming together, medium to high levels of all the ingredients we look at. That's why we have such a huge zone here of 7s on the map. An outside chance, the Storm Prediction Center saying we might have to kind of ratchet this up even a little bit more for the overnight update. It's not a guarantee that we're going to see 9s by tomorrow morning somewhere in here, but it's also not off the table yet, okay? So, gosh, this is a big risk day. you need to stay weather aware, starting off tonight in the center of the country and continuing through the southeast for tomorrow. Even if you don't get a tornado, I think the possibility of severe weather is very high. Gusty straight line winds along our front, lots of hail with the storms out ahead of the front. You name it, the mode of severe weather, we're going to see some of it tomorrow. The available energy for these storms is going to be more than enough. We'll get those storms starting to climb up through the atmosphere. The winds at the surface coming up from the Gulf of Mexico will be out of the south, bringing up that moisture. But you go up 5,000 feet, and suddenly those winds are coming out of the southwest. And that is a really kind of crucial component here. What I want to do is go through some of the what the models say with regards to where that rain is going to be. This is our warm front right in here, and it's going to be lifting north and allowing for even a bigger warm sector by Wednesday morning. And so that being said, I think we're going to have individual storms in that southerly flow popping up that could be strong to severe during the main afternoon hours, and gusty winds and embedded tornadoes along this line that continues through the overnight. Severe weather still popping up at times today across the southeast. This is not the big severe weather event that really cranks up tomorrow, but there are some storms that you need to know about. So let's go through that setup for today across the south. This is an old boundary draped across the southeast. Very stationary still to the east, but starting to act more like a warm front back here towards the west, starting to lift north, bringing that storm threat north along with it. And that is where we also have our newest severe thunderstorm warning. This is approaching the I-20 corridor just outside the river, the Mississippi River, on the Louisiana side, parishes of Franklin and Madison approaching I-20. So if you know people traveling the highway, watch out. These storms are approaching from the south, and the winds with them as they come up from the south will be going perpendicular to the highway. So high-profile vehicles got to watch out because of that threat. Certainly not the only area we're watching. We'll go down I-20 into central Alabama, where there's still flooding. Another round of rain coming towards Wilcox County here. This has been under a flood warning just about all day, and we get another big rain-producing thunderstorm approaching. And we've been watching this storm complex as well. This is now on the Alabama into the Georgia side of the region. And look at this. You've got this big push of wind and rain forward right here, but also some of the inflow air coming right through Clayton, and those are meeting up. And at times we've seen a little bit of rotation here on that kind of meetup zone right back here. Can't rule out spin-up tornadoes when you see something like that, but right now not being warned on with the severe thunderstorm warning, much less a tornado warning, because the winds themselves don't seem to be strong enough to warrant it. That could change. I just want to give you a heads up that that potential is there. So not only are we watching the southeast, but as we go through the rest of the day into tonight, then we look back into the center of the country, Jackie, where we could have tornadoes, 2 to 3 on the Torcon for tonight.
Yeah, tonight and overnight into tomorrow morning. And then the numbers go up even further because conditions becoming more and more likely for tornadoes, especially tomorrow afternoon and into tomorrow night. Torcons go as high as a 7, and this includes places like Little Rock. There you can see a 7 for Little Rock. Just off to your west over towards Hot Springs, we have numbers of 5. Here's a look at Memphis right now. And Memphis, you're up to 80 degrees. How about that? You're probably feeling a little bit more humidity in the air. You are in the bull's eye for the highest risk of tornadoes tomorrow with the number 7. It's the highest number that we've issued so far this year. And the chance is there that it may have to go up a little bit tomorrow. So make sure you keep checking in with us here at the Weather Channel early and often, as we like to say, as we get a little bit closer to the main event. So here's a look at the Memphis metro area, a 7 all across the region. 7s extend down into Oxford, Mississippi, and then north into Jackson, Tennessee. The number's still at a 5. A 5 is very significant. When we talk about a 7, we were saying tornado watches are very likely, and that tornado warnings are very likely, not necessarily in Memphis exactly, exactly, but certainly within that vicinity. And the chances are good that this is all going to evolve here. And it's a window of opportunity. This all gets started already for you. Memphis out of the gate pretty early in the morning hours for tomorrow, 7, 8 o'clock. Some clustering and individual thunderstorms that could cause some damage will be rolling on through. Notice where the storms are coming from. A lot of them coming in across the river and pushing off towards the east. A break in the action will be possible sometime into the afternoon, but then by the evening, here we go. Here comes more rounds of showers and thunderstorms, even into the nighttime hours by 10 o'clock, and then beginning to exit. Birmingham, very similar. Birmingham has multiple opportunities for severe weather, and while we could see some yet today and some during the day tomorrow, I really think tomorrow evening and tomorrow night is going to be the most dangerous time here for Birmingham.
I hate seeing a setup like this. We know all these risks in the southeast where there's more mobile homes and manufactured homes. There's more hills blocking the views. There's often more rain-wrapped tornadoes. There's more nighttime tornadoes. All of this coming together, and we'll continue to move east to a place like Raleigh for tomorrow. Raleigh has temps in the low 40s with rain showers. Doesn't really feel like it's going to be severe weather tomorrow and then continuing into Thursday, but it could, because our front is going to lift north. Our big system that affects the southeast tomorrow will affect the East Coast Thursday. So here we go. Eastern seaboard, we've got the chance for big storms. And here's the Raleigh area. You're in that likelihood of severe weather on Thursday. Why are we still going to be seeing severe weather? Well, our same area of low pressure will still be riding a little bit farther east. There'll be some severe storms along this warm front where there's a built-in wind shift. That helps to support some storms and some rotation. There's some added lift near that area of low pressure, so that's an area of concern. And then if you're far enough east, I think you're going to have all day Thursday to warm up. I think there'll be some sunshine out ahead of the line of storms. And so the farther east you get, the better your chances of severe weather on Thursday. Winds out of the south, especially for eastern portions of the Carolinas at the surface. At 5,000 feet up, though, coming out of the southwest. So there is a turn still. If we get any big storms, they could start to rotate. And all the storms along the front will be tapping into some very strong winds aloft. And so a straight-line wind threat for the storms across the rest of the southeast. The best rotation for the storms looks to be across the Carolinas, but everybody's got a chance of these storms as the front moves in, working its way west to east.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Weather Center Live. We are tracking strong and some severe thunderstorms across parts of the south at this hour. We've got a boundary draped across the region. We've got lots of lifting after the heating of the day, and storms are firing up all over the place. Most of them are not severe, but a few are reaching severe limits. So we'll be watching for that risk of damaging winds primarily, but some of them have been producing hail too. This is in Louisiana. There you can see Interstate 20 just up to the north of this storm. This is for Franklin and Madison parishes, and that includes the city of Baskin. Here's Winnsboro. It just plowed right on through you. We're seeing some really high reflectivity, so don't be shocked to get maybe up to quarter-size hail. There's also a lot of lightning with that storm that's moving up towards the north. We'll take you here into Mississippi. There you can see Jackson, and there are areas of thunderstorms kind of firing up right along Interstate 20. So if you're traveling in or out of that region, just a heads heads up. We're keeping an eye on that threat for intensifying thunderstorms. And then in Mississippi and parts of Alabama, we've been seeing some very heavy rainfall. Storms have been training or moving over the same areas hour after hour after hour this afternoon. That's been leading to some flash flooding. Butler, Lisbon, Silas, all under the flash flood warning. Some county roads have been covered in water today, so use a lot of caution if you absolutely have to travel. That's been the same case too here into Wilcox County, where as much as 2 to 4 inches of rain has already come down. Here's a look at Alabama leading over towards the Georgia state line. These thunderstorms earlier had warnings on them. They're kind of elongating out right now, staying sub-severe, but still lightning, of course, big danger with them as well. And Mark, tomorrow we're going to watch these numbers go up, and tomorrow folks really need to be weather aware and weather alert. We just can't emphasize that enough throughout the day. And breaking news, by the way, too, we just heard Governor Kay Ivey out of Alabama now declaring a state of emergency ahead of the tornado threat tomorrow.
Yeah, many schools on different schedules for tomorrow because of this alert across Alabama and back towards the west. This includes the Little Rock area in the risk zone for tomorrow. 7 out of 10 on the Torcon. When you see numbers like this, you need to change your plans. Think about what you can do differently so that you're not, say, stuck on this road that you're looking at when strong to severe storms, including potential tornadoes, are coming through. We don't want you stuck in a car when that happens. Think about where you, your kids, your loved ones will be during the day and if they have a safe place to go to. Now, let's take a look at some of the other cities. Not everyone's a 7, but many cities are not 0 either for tomorrow. New Orleans and Mobile near the Gulf, 3. Huntsville going all the way through Alabama, a 5. In between, though, a huge zone of even bigger concern. Not out of the realm of possibility that we will have higher numbers than this by the time you're tuning in again tomorrow. The overnight update from the Storm Prediction Center could raise this even more. They were thinking about it earlier. They were not quite there yet, but you can't rule it out. So that would mean a 9 if that occurs overnight. It's something to watch for. Even if you don't get tornadoes, widespread severe weather will be likely with very gusty winds along this front. Plenty of energy for storms to go and shifting winds with height, which is really the crucial component here. It brings up the moisture from the south, but we turn those winds at about 5,000 feet up. So we can show you that as an example in Memphis from the surface at south at 10 miles per hour to 5,000 feet south-southwest close to 50 miles per hour. That change in wind direction with height will be enough for storms, and we'll see that rapidly developing throughout the afternoon with supercell thunderstorms and along our front. Jackie, that continues all the way into the nighttime hours, so overnight threats, it's a mess. This is a messy setup for tomorrow.
It's not my favorite, that's for sure. Very concerning. So we want to remind people of a couple of things, severe weather safety rules, but also definitions, because it's been a while, right, since we've had to deal with this type of weather, and this event is expected to be quite extreme. A tornado watch means that conditions are favorable for the development of tornadoes, and a warning means a tornado is imminent or occurring. Whenever I do my school talks, I always tell the kids, a watch means watch, and I literally make them stand up and go like this. We're watching our phones, we're watching the TV, we're watching the skies to see if there's anything threatening out there. A warning means take cover now. It's that simple. Teach your kids. A watch means watch, a warning means take cover now. Crouching down, getting to your safe place. So where's the safe place? Well, if you have a basement, that's the best place to be. Not everybody has a basement, but if you have one, that is best. And you want to find an interior room. You want as many walls between you and the outside of the home if possible. Underneath a stairwell is one of the best places to be. Get your safe place in your home ready today. Put your snacks in there, toys for the kids to distract them. If you don't have a basement, remember an interior room just on the lowest level of your home, away from doors and windows. Also consider what's on the floors above you. You don't want to be underneath anything that could be heavy.
Your dry skin story changes.
Next on Weather Underground, dangerous days ahead as we track a severe weather outbreak in the south, and we are timing out this multi-day threat with tornadoes, damaging winds, and large hail, all likely from Oklahoma to Texas and into the Carolinas. But the real threat really ramps up tomorrow. We go in depth on who could see strong, long track, and possibly violent tornadoes, and where the danger will increase in the overnight hours.
And staying weather aware right now is absolutely critical for anyone living in the South. We're going to take you through the multi-day threat hour by hour, highlighting the dangers from major cities from Little Rock to Birmingham to Atlanta. And we've got important information to help you get through the next several days safely, including where to find the strongest spot in your home to take shelter. All of this coming up next on Weather Underground.
Hi, everyone. Welcome in. Glad you're joining us tonight for Weather Underground. I'm Mike Bettis.
I'm Alex Wilson. Dr. Nab with us as well. Mike, the beginnings of our severe weather outbreak already underway. However, tomorrow looks to be an incredibly dangerous day across
maybe the strongest day of storms we've seen so far in 2021.
Absolutely. The Storm Prediction Center just upgraded to a moderate risk for severe weather on Wednesday. What that means is we're getting into those Torcon values of 5, 6, and 7. So looking at a significant threat of severe weather. And with that comes the threat that we would likely see tornadoes, and we would likely see some stronger tornadoes. Jackson, Mississippi, Memphis, Little Rock, Birmingham, all in that moderate risk zone. And we're going to go over each and every one of the hazards that we're going to be facing. And also, we're going to get you through the timing, so you know when especially you need to be on the lookout for those storms tomorrow. We've got a ton of real estate. You can see it's a very, very large and expansive area from parts of Arkansas and Louisiana all the way over to Alabama. Hard to believe. Breaking information for you right now. We are taking you to Jackson, Mississippi, Montgomery, Alabama. The Alabama governor, Kay Ivey, Mike, has issued a state of emergency for the state.
That's right. The governor saying that the threat of severe weather is so high that issuing that state of emergency and making sure that everyone is aware of what the risk is going to be. What that's going to do then is open up the State Operations Center. Right now, we just got kind of overcast or kind of dreary conditions across the southeast right now. Although some storms are really starting to pop at this time. The possible severe weather area highlighted in the deepest red color here, but you can see quite a few storms have already popped here across the southeast, including through Alabama, Mississippi, and back through Louisiana. All right, so complicated setup here at the surface. One thing you'll notice is the wedge is in effect here. So you've got this cold air that's been pulling down on the eastern side of the Appalachians. So in this area right here, mainly just run-of-the-mill showers. Now, once you get to the more unstable air, that's where we have more thunderstorms that are popping right now. A lot of lightning with these storms, heavy downpours, a handful of severe thunderstorm warnings this evening. Down into Alabama we go, around Camden and Wilcox County. We're under flash flood warning right now. You can see how the storms are really flaring here, putting down some pretty heavy rainfall at this point. Big rain producers here around Laurel and Waynesboro here. This is going to include Wayne County, flash flood warning for us until 9:45 this evening. We certainly would encourage you here in Mississippi and in Alabama to be careful on the roads tonight, or just not travel tonight, because a lot of places you're going to encounter some high water. Back across, say, Anniston or Talladega and into Atlanta, more or less general showers for you today and this evening as well. I don't think we're going to get a huge thunderstorm risk tonight. Likely that's going to be south of I-20, maybe significantly south of I-20. I think this area down in here is the prime area for storms, but the activity should wane a bit as we go through the overnight tonight. And then tomorrow morning, more storms begin to ramp up, especially here across the Mid-South, and could include Little Rock and Memphis. So those are areas to watch. Flooding, this area right here, most likely the same spots where we just showed you those thunderstorms. All right, we know that we've got a lot of ingredients in play for us here over the next 24 plus hours. Dr. Nab, you're looking at everything that could play out here, especially that dry line and the cap.
Yeah, it is plenty warm in Texas right now, but we don't have quite enough moisture and instability and energy in the atmosphere just yet. So it's not daytime heating that's driving the thunderstorms later tonight and overnight in Texas and Oklahoma. So what is it? Well, it's plenty warm, temperatures in the 80s pretty much all across Texas, but look at the dew points. Amazing. 59 in Dallas, 65 in San Antonio, only 11 in Midland, 15 in Amarillo. Why do we get this very distinct, what we call dry line, the boundary between the moist air and the dry air? And look at those relative humidities. Well, you might think, well, Texas is flat. It just must be the Gulf of Mexico, and you just get a boundary that sets up. But why is it so distinct? Well, Texas isn't quite as flat as you might think. Okay, I'll get to that in a second. But look at the low pressure forming. The surface low forming here in New Mexico. The stronger this low gets, the stronger the warm, moist flow at low levels becomes in central and eastern Texas. So we are moistening the atmosphere. We are destabilizing the atmosphere and making it warm and moist down below. but we still have some very cool air aloft. And I want to show you what the difference is. It's the terrain that makes this dry line show up. Lubbock to Abilene to Dallas. Lubbock is like over 3,000 feet. Abilene is like 1,700 feet. And Dallas is like at 400 feet. So that dry line is actually happening along a slope. Dallas is over here. Lubbock would be over here, and our dry line might be here. And so the warm, dry air doesn't make it all the way down to those low elevations. So what you get is that warm, dry air aloft and the moist air down below. That is our cap, and it's warmer above that cap than it is below. So it kind of puts a lid on the storms, but watch this instability increase. The more unstable, the more warm and moist it gets at those low levels, the more we can break through that cap. So isn't it interesting, Alex, that we're going to break through that cap in the middle of the night, not daytime heating, but all the instability with the warm air down below, cold air aloft coming in.
Yeah, very interesting, because I think a lot of times people think, oh, well, if I haven't seen the storms already by the time I'm going to bed, I'm not going to get them. Not the case tonight. Oklahoma City, Dallas, of course, both areas that we are looking at right now, both fairly quiet. 78 Oklahoma City, 80 in Dallas. But as Dr. Knabb just mentioned, it's going to be a late evening and overnight threat that we're watching for those storms to really begin to fire up. So Dallas, Fort Worth, 5 o'clock this afternoon. Right now, you're pretty quiet, or I guess 4 o'clock this afternoon right now. But we get you to 8 o'clock, begin to see a few returns on the radar. But late evening and overnight, you can see the storms firing across the area. Here's 4 a.m. with the Fort Worth metro area beginning to get in on some of the stronger storms. They'll continue east to Dallas just in time for the early part of the morning commute. So I think 5, 6 a.m. could be rocky, eventually moving east by the time we get to about 7, 8 a.m. and much quieter for your lunchtime hour. But again, an early morning threat, or I should say mid-morning threat for many of you when you may be already getting up and around. But if you're a late sleeper, maybe be prepared for an earlier than anticipated wake up. Oklahoma City, 5 o'clock, also on the quiet side. We get you to 9 o'clock, still nothing happening across the area. So you're going to go to bed and think, okay, we didn't get the storms. Not the case. Those storms rolling through the area as we head into the early to mid-morning hours. You see around 4 o'clock, we've got thunderstorms at really either side of Oklahoma City. And this model doesn't have much in the way of storms downtown Oklahoma City, but I want you to be prepared for it across the entire metro area, because those storms can, of course, be in different locations. Wichita, Kansas, yet another spot where you've got a quiet dinner time, quiet for the evening television shows. I think it's time that you get into the evening news, and then later that we begin to see those storms fire up and that severe threat kick in, Mike.
You know, it's going to be a multi-day event for us. You know, it really started over the weekend, and then we had some storms yesterday. How about this tornado in Stillwell, Kansas? Same area that's going to be in the bullseye for Wednesday's potential outbreak. So here's what we know about tomorrow for you. We've got an outbreak. The possibility here of severe storms is very, very likely here. There's going to be an opportunity here for multiple states to be impacted here. Large hail, high winds, and long track tornadoes are very, very possible. There's shear in the atmosphere. We've got high levels of wind shear, especially low levels. High amounts of lift as the front and the dry line come in. Instability. Dr. Knabb was just talking about that. We've got medium amounts of instability, but the timing is interesting, especially considering overnight tonight and then tomorrow moisture. There's plenty coming out of the Gulf of Mexico. We'll put it at a medium category right now. So those 4 ingredients are what we look for severe weather to happen. Put all those 4 things together. This is the map that we're depicting. 7 is the Torcon tomorrow here across a large area, including Memphis, near Little Rock, Jackson, Tupelo, Birmingham, Montgomery, and then a 5 that extends over toward Atlanta, down near Mobile, up toward Paducah. So a large area here. We've got moderate risk to maybe even elevated risk of tornadoes for you tomorrow. So what's happening at the upper levels of the atmosphere? We're going to get cold air that's really going to force its way in here, but there's the dry air that's now going to start to pop some of these storms overnight tonight and then tomorrow as it pushes its way east. Instability, there's energy right here, and we can shade that in yellow on the map. And a lot of it right here between the warm front and the cold front, that's going to be the sector that we really watch for the storms. And then look at what happens with the moisture transport. So there's the M in the slim that we showed you, shear, lift, instability, and moisture. There's the moisture really making a beeline for the south tomorrow, coming right out of the Gulf of Mexico. And then what's going to happen at the surface is our winds are going to start to turn a little bit at the surface. I think low-level wind shear is going to be pretty good tomorrow. A lot of times, if you have low-level wind shear, meaning, say, the lowest maybe 5,000 feet of the atmosphere, okay? Then you're going to have a higher likelihood to see rotating supercell thunderstorms. And a lot of times, if you get really decent low-level wind shear, you can overcome other deficiencies you might have in the atmosphere to produce tornadoes. That's one we're always looking at. So a strong low-level wind shear is going to be a key here. The upper-level winds, I think, especially as we go late in the day tomorrow and overnight, what you might see is more of the surface winds and the upper air winds start to align a little bit. And this happens frequently. You get storms that pop through the late afternoon and evening, and then the storms become tornadic, and then eventually you start to see these storms line out and produce really strong straight line winds. That could be a possibility. Everything's on the table for us tomorrow. Large area of hail could be hitting us as well. But here's the thing. We could be looking at particularly dangerous situation tomorrow for tornado watches that have long-lived tornadoes or intense tornadoes, and they're pretty rare. Only about 3% of all watches issued are deemed particularly dangerous situations. Tomorrow could be one of those days, Alex.
Yeah, unfortunately, the signs are there that we think we're going to be dealing with a big deal in terms of severe weather. Let's look at the overall picture in terms of what we think the future radar, how things are going to play out, and the motion of these storms. Starting things off in the morning with those thunderstorms around parts of Texas, still into Arkansas, western Tennessee. Could be off to a very early start for you in terms of storms, and you can see some of those storms also into northern Alabama, northern parts of Georgia tomorrow morning. Then during the afternoon, we've got those strong storms set up across parts of Arkansas, Louisiana, with some thunderstorms still littered across sections of Mississippi and Alabama. But we think these big storms continue eastward as we head through the afternoon. So now going through the Little Rock area, getting into northeastern parts of Louisiana. You notice an overall line, but I think we will be dealing with those individual supercells amongst that line or within that overall line. And those are the storms that are going to be the rotating storms that are capable of producing those stronger and longer track tornadoes. 9 o'clock. Now we're looking at a lot of Mississippi into West Tennessee. Northern Alabama as well could be looking at their strong storms. That continues till about midnight. So again, this is a threat that continues well after you've already gone to bed. And that includes places like Atlanta. Take a look, 3, 4 a.m. working through parts of North Georgia. I think the Atlanta metro area gets in on their strong storms around 6, 7 a.m. on Thursday. So again, could be an unwelcome wake up for you. Make sure you have a way to get the alerts when you're sleeping. Make sure you and the family know where in your house you want to go, or you should go, should those warnings are issued, Mike.
All right, Alex, thank you for that. So let's walk you through this kind of step by step, and there's a look at Graceland right here in Memphis. 79 degrees right now. It's a humid atmosphere. It's going to get a little bit more unstable, and tomorrow we think we've got a higher likelihood of tornadoes coming our way. We want you to have the heads up and have the knowledge now, and then know what to do at a moment's notice when a tornado warning might be issued for your county and you could be in danger. Where are you going to go? How are you going to stay safe? This map, and follow along with the legend at the top of your screen, we've painted the color contours on here. A 7 is our Torcon tomorrow in Memphis. So we've got a fairly high risk of tornadoes. A 5 up around Jackson, Oxford, and Tupelo will be at about a 7 as well. So let's talk about these storms overnight tonight. It's the second round that comes in. Okay, so we've got 7 a.m. Some storms are popping now already in Memphis. And then we can see more storms throughout the morning and early afternoon. Then some of the storms are going to ride their way northbound, okay? But then watch what happens late. Then comes another round. So there could be 2 different rounds, morning and then late in the day. Probably around 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening, you're going to see the storms. 10 o'clock, the leftover storms are hanging around in Memphis. I don't think those will necessarily be severe. Birmingham, we've got a Torcon of 7 for us. That will include Tuscaloosa, Jasper, and Coleman here. Let's time this out for you. Tonight, just some scattered showers, maybe a stray thunderstorm in the morning that could hit you here on 65 and 22, including Coleman and Jasper. And those storms are going to ride kind of parallel to I-20 and north of I-20. Then through the afternoon, more pop-up storms are firing for us here, and some of these storms could indeed be severe and maybe even tornadic. That would include kind of your typical daytime. But then, remember I was talking about how some of these storms could then line out? So we could see, storms at 3 different times tomorrow morning, late afternoon, evening, and then well after dark. Here we are at midnight with a strong squall line ripping through central Alabama and then forcing its way eastbound. You're clear by about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, Thursday early morning. For Jackson, Mississippi, we're a 7 on the Torcon. Same in Vicksburg and up here in Yazoo City as well. So Also, elevated risk for us tomorrow. Here's a look at the storms tonight. Now, some of these storms could actually produce some flooding tonight, but probably not tornadoes. Tomorrow is our day for severe weather with tornadoes. Around noontime, a few scattered showers out there. Then watch this, 7 or 8 o'clock. That is a really intense line that comes through. It may not last for more than an hour to be gone, but the damage could be done at that point. Texarkana, torque count of 3 for us tomorrow. Magnolia, about a 5. Shreveport, you'll be a 3 as well. So a lot of different places to watch, Alex.
Absolutely. Well, coming up on the show, multi-day event unfolding. Danger does not stop at night. So we're going to discuss why you need to have that plan now.
Lean Cuisine.
We log at the top of the world, a mile high into the mountains. And that's where some of the best logging is.
It's absolutely insane up here.
Careful, careful, careful.
There's lots of things that can go wrong. The mud just does not stop.
You can't stay on the road.
You just hope you make it.
It's a battle against Mother Nature. It's not for everyone.
Let the fun begin.
Tomorrow looks to be the really first legitimate severe weather outbreak of the season. Right now, torque count of 7 in place in Huntsville, Alabama, 5 in Mobile, a 3 in New Orleans. And so that's a 0 to 10 scale. The higher the number, the higher your risk for a tornado. But what exactly would these numbers mean to me? All right, you're saying that when you're at home right now. Well, we thought we'd walk you through some of these numbers and what you should be preparing for. So you've got a torque count of 3 in your area. Thunderstorms are likely. A few tornadoes are possible, and tornado watches could be issued, meaning the Storm Prediction Center in Oklahoma will be looking at the atmosphere and saying, okay, the conditions right now in the atmosphere are favorable for tornadoes to form, and we'll go ahead and issue a watch. A torque count of 5. Dangerous weather is now anticipated with tornado watches likely, okay? And strong tornadoes of EF2 strength or greater are possible, okay? You want to monitor the forecast very frequently if you've got a radar app. Also a good thing to have. Keep the TV or radio on. Torque count of 7. Now the number's getting higher. Your threat's getting higher, okay? Numerous tornadoes now possible. Increased chance for strong tornadoes and long track, long-lived tornadoes. Long track meaning they're going to be on the ground for multiple miles. 10, 20, 30 miles or longer. Be ready to take cover. Know where to go in your home, Alex. So that the danger tomorrow is very legitimate. We want everyone paying very close attention tomorrow if you're in this risk zone.
Yeah, you're sitting to dinner with your family. Talk about, okay, guys, so tomorrow night, we're watching TV, alarms go off. Where do we go? If we're all sleeping, alarms go off. Does everybody have an alarm in their room to wake up? Where do we meet in the house? What about the pets? You know, start thinking about things that you would need to do or move or have, so that way you don't have to rush tomorrow. And from Texas to Mississippi, threat of damaging winds tonight. We're looking at Dallas. We're looking at Oxford, Mississippi. So some strong thunderstorms after dark even tonight. So in these areas, you guys have to be ready tonight for the strong storms. By the way, obviously you can see what's headed our way as this entire storm system starts Thursday morning around the Atlanta metro area and then gets into parts of the Carolinas. So we've got a lot of you that will be watching for the threat of severe weather here over the coming days. Damaging winds, as I mentioned, tomorrow, greatest risk would be from Little Rock to Jackson to Memphis to Birmingham to Alabama. So parts of Mississippi tomorrow, Oklahoma City tonight, you could see some of those strong winds primarily during the overnight hours, again, while you're sleeping. And when we talk about damaging wind gusts, sub-severe warning is 45 to 57 mile per hour winds. At that point, trees are going to bend. You get some small limbs breaking. You can get some cosmetic damage to your home. Then we up the ante. We get ourselves into the severe criteria winds, 58 to 74 mile per hour winds. At this point, large tree limbs are going to be breaking. Shallow rooted trees can be pushed over, and semi-trucks are overturned. You can even get beyond that, and that's when you're going to see some more significant damage and widespread tree damage as well. And then, Dr. Knabb, we got to talk about the rain that could be causing problems with these storms as well.
Yeah, and that could cause flood problems. So we have multiple reasons, along with not being on the roads during a tornado or a severe thunderstorm. Lots of reasons to stay off the roads. The front that will be attaching to this new low as part of our severe outbreak tomorrow is already a focus for showers and thunderstorms today, and it has been the case over the last 24 hours, especially in Mississippi and Alabama, where we've got over a half a foot along a corridor south of Jackson over toward Montgomery, and it's still raining in that area. And this is table-setting rains for tomorrow that could increase the flood threat even more. Got a number of flash flood warnings east of Hattiesburg in the Waynesboro area, just issued till 9:45 local time. Already got some reports of water on the roads just north of there. Then they'll go down the road a piece to the east, Gilberttown and Butler. That warning until 5:15 local time. Got reports of water-covered roads up in Pennington, northeast of Butler. And then we've got approaching the Montgomery area, some heavy storms in Wilcox County, got a flash flood warning. So Montgomery and in Alabama, and also Columbus in Georgia. This is the corridor where we could have some flood problems overnight tonight, in addition to what we've already had. And then tomorrow, in addition to the severe weather, the tornado threat, in and north of the warm sector, we've got a chance of flash flooding, and there could be tornado warnings, severe thunderstorm warnings, flash flood warnings, all going on at the same time, especially, I would say, in Missouri, Tennessee, and Alabama. It will already be raining in some of those areas early in the day, and then when the big storms come, it could be even more rain that could cause significant flash flooding at night, Mike. So I can't imagine why anybody would want to be on the roads tomorrow night in these areas because of the tornadoes and the flood.
Just looking at that future radar, boy, it's complicated, and there's a lot to it. Dr. Knabb, good points there. Thank you. Still to come on the show tonight. More on the timing, who's at risk tomorrow with the latest threat of significant long-track tornadoes and dangerous storms lasting into the overnight hours. We've got you covered. And, of course, watching the radar very closely as well. Quite a few storms already popping with a flood threat tonight.
Tired of clean.
Welcome back into Weather Underground on this Tuesday. Severe weather possible out there this afternoon, really tonight. But Mike, unfortunately, still looking like we could see a significant severe weather event into our Wednesday.
Yeah, tomorrow looks to be really rough. The threat will even continue into Thursday, and it's just really all of our southern states that we're worried about right now. We have some storms right now that are moving through the south, including here in Montgomery, Alabama, where it's raining pretty good for us right now. It's 67 degrees. We do think we have at least a chance for a handful of severe thunderstorms this evening, but a lot of these storms are more or less heavy rain producers, and so very slick roads tonight, and maybe even at times high water on those roads. There's the setup for us. You can see where the storms are popping right now, mostly south of I-20, a little bit of lightning within those storms. The real area for severe weather through the evening and maybe later tonight is then that dark or maybe bright a red shaded area here, so just keep an eye on that. We're really working with the air in the moist, unstable atmosphere that's down here in this orange and yellow. Up here, where you've got a little bit of blue on the map, what's happening here is we're overlaying the surface features on the map and the radar over the temperatures, okay? And so you've got this cold wedge of air back in here, and so that's stabilizing your air somewhat. So you can see it's more just kind of light rain for you here, whereas down in here in the unstable air is where we have the thunderstorms that are popping right now. And many of them are training, or they're going over the same location over and over again. This is why we have the flooding going on. Around Camden, we've got a flash flood warning for us tonight. That's Wilcox County this evening. Take a look at what's going on for us up around Binghamton and up around Anniston for us this evening. We got some showers that are popping for us right now as well. Go over to max 42 right now so folks at home can see what we're talking about right now. But quite a few areas here this evening, we're going to be worried about the possibility of getting some flooding thunderstorms for us tonight. Atlanta, you've got some showers that are over you right now. I don't think you're going to see anything severe tonight. Tomorrow will be more likely your time frame to get severe weather. As we go through the remainder of the evening tonight, still mostly confined south of I-20 with the showers. At times they could be heavy, but I think the threat for the heavy stuff really wanes as we go through the night. Then look, overnight tonight and early tomorrow morning, storms now starting to rip across Arkansas, hitting us in Memphis right about the morning rush hour. But the most likely area for flooding is what's happening right now, actually. And so we're painting a darker green and a yellow on this map for likely locations for flooding. I think Montgomery, Meridian toward Montgomery, and then Columbus, Georgia. Those are the locations I'd be worried about. I'd advise you maybe not to travel in these spots tonight because high water could be a problem on some of these roads, Alex. Hydroplaning could be an issue. Turn around, don't drown. Find alternate routes if you do indeed have to travel tonight.
Yeah, gosh, so many of our problems in terms of accidents and other issues caused by just some water on the road. So if you can avoid travel, definitely do it. Now, tomorrow, we are looking at Torcon values as high as 7. And that's right now. We've got a 7 out of 10 on the Torcon. That would indicate that severe weather tornadoes are likely. We could see strong tornadoes. We could see long track, long-lived tornadoes as well. I want you to also remember, tomorrow is St. Patrick's Day. I know a lot of us have been stuck inside. We haven't been doing those events, and, you know, we're starting to ease back into things. I don't want you to just go totally off the radar and be like, whatever, I'm partying. It's a fun day, but I want you to remember that we've got a serious, severe threat across a lot of areas, a big area in terms of real estate. We're talking Arkansas and Louisiana all the way over towards basically the Georgia-Alabama state line. So that area of purple, our greatest risk zone. And all of those spots, Torcon of 7. We've got big cities, Little Rock, Memphis. We've got Jackson, Mississippi, Birmingham, Montgomery, Alabama. A lot of people included within these very, very high Torcon cities. Tomorrow, shear is high, lift is high. So 2 of our severe weather ingredients, we've got plenty. And then instability and moisture, still medium levels, enough that we're going to see those storms firing. And we've got the potential for a lot of those supercell thunderstorms, the ones that produce the hail, the ones that produce the strong tornadoes. Our threat for all modes of severe weather, though, most certainly on the table. We're talking hail, damaging wind gusts, and tornadoes, given the setup that we've got. We start things off at 4 o'clock in the morning. There's already showers and storms out there, but take a look as we get towards the late morning and afternoon. I want you to look at Arkansas, western Arkansas, parts of western Louisiana as well. You'll see those storms start to really gain strength and continue eastward as we go through the afternoon and the evening. So I don't want you to think that just because the sun goes down, the storms stop. You can see 11 o'clock. We still have a very active picture across parts of Tennessee and Alabama. And Mike, that continues eastward into parts of Georgia, eastern Tennessee during the overnight.
Yeah, and then Thursday, we're going to talk about that coming up. And still ahead, important information to help you make it through the next several days safely and to find the sturdiest spot in your home to take shelter should you need it. And of course, closely monitoring the radar for you tonight with plenty of storms across the south. We're back after this.
Plaque psoriasis.
Scrambles to keep the roads open during a whiteout.
Visibility is like dropping by the minute. Cars are going into the ditches right now. Oh wow, he went in pretty good. So right now I'm just trying to dig this car out so I can find something to hook onto. She's buried pretty good, so I don't want to wreck anything underneath. Oh, okay, that's deep. This is really hard packed snow. This car is just wedged in there. We can't even stop the traffic. They don't care enough to slow down for us. Oh, that is nasty on the face. Right now, I'm just trying to get something underneath this thing to, oh, there we go, to hook it. Okay, let's see if this thing will come out for us. Oh, come on. The cable's binding up. This is a horrible time for stuff to break on me. It's getting really nasty, and the longer that I'm standing, the more chances of me getting hit.
You're going to see Heavy Rescue 401 coming up next, 8/7 Central, right after Weather Underground.
So Denver, we told you it was coming. We also told you it was going to be nothing like what Winter Storm Xylia brought for the Rockies this weekend. But we did get a quick burst of snow in Chicago, other parts of the Midwest yesterday. Yeah, not Rockies level snow, but still some wintry weather. And then, as I said, Denver, I told you more was coming, and I said it was not going to be nearly what you had this weekend, and that is exactly the case right now. You can see Denver area, mainly to the west, though, and south, we've got some light snow showers, generally light, generally scattered, but, you know, just enough to remind you that it's still winter and you still have snow in the forecast. In fact, March, April tend to be snowier months, or are the snowiest months around the Denver area. So this is not necessarily unusual in the least. And moving forward, I think probably around 1 to 3 inches at best in the Denver metro area. West of town, 3 to 5 inches. You get down into areas in southern Colorado, northern New Mexico, 5 to 8 plus inches possible there. So that snow continues tonight and into tomorrow. We time this out for you. Again, light snow generally. I think where it will be heavier is where we will see those higher accumulations. So where we've got a little bit of elevation at play. There, of course, are showers and thunderstorms moving into parts of the Central Plains. By 4 o'clock in the morning, you can see Denver, very little left over, maybe a few flurries. Pueblo, you're dry, and it's parts of the Oklahoma and Texas Panhandle getting in on the wintry weather, along with southeastern Colorado and northeastern New Mexico. Everybody across that area, Colorado, New Mexico, dry by late morning. So it's not a long-lasting event, but just enough to leave some higher accumulations there along the New Mexico-Colorado state line. Now, Wednesday night, rain and thunderstorms on the north side as well. You know, we're talking about all the severe danger, but there will be rain and thunderstorms up across parts of the Midwest Wednesday night and Thursday. That extends into the Northeast by Thursday night. Now we've got the Mid-Atlantic in play and some rain and snow showing up into our northeastern and New England states, even wrapping up with some snow showers around Boston on Friday. So, you know, Mike, I think people in Boston are going, wait, it's after St. Patrick's Day. I feel like that's too late for snow.
I know, but if you live in Boston, I'm sure
Yes.
you celebrated a St. Patrick's Day or two. When,
you may have.
When, like, you know, Mother Nature chilled your green beer. You know what I'm saying?
100%. 100%.
We do tend to get a little bit of snow in March. It's not super common, but we're going to get a little bit this time as well. A place like Boston, looking at 1 to 3. Same for you in Worcester, Concord, Manchester, Portland, up through down East Maine. Could even see some snow back here through portions of New York, as well as northern Pennsylvania. So we take a look at some of the timing, if you will, for snow. So for Boston, you know, typically after St. Patrick's Day, you average 4.7 inches of snow, which is still good for 11% of your season still. For Concord, we get about 7 inches of snow, which is good for about 12% of your snow season that's left. Portland, we get about 7.5 inches after St. Patrick's Day. For a place like maybe a Worcester, we still have 11% of our snow season still to go. Providence, now we don't tend to get a whole lot here in Providence after St. Patrick's Day, just 2.3 inches. That's only 7% of your snow season that's left. In Bangor, we get a little bit more. We're farther north, 8.2 inches of snow. How have we done so far this year? Well, look at this area right in here in particular. It's highlighted in blue. You actually had some surpluses here for some snow, including New York, 15 inches above. Philly, we had a surplus. Harrisburg, we had a surplus. Albany, a surplus. But then we had some deficits, including more than a foot in Portland, about a foot in Burlington, more than a foot in Buffalo, and oh my goodness, Erie, we have a deficit this year. We hardly had any lake effect snow of 32 inches. Now, Erie, you're not going to get any snow out of this one, but some places that did have snow this year and plenty of it get just a little bit more. All right, still to come here on Weather Underground. We're going to continue to break down a severe thunderstorm outbreak that unfolds across the South the next couple of days. See the specific spots where significant tornadoes could strike. Well, thanks for staying with us tonight here on Weather Underground, updating you on the storms that are firing tonight across the Deep South. Numerous areas where the storms are producing heavy rainfall and flash flooding is an ongoing issue for us, and possible severe weather later on this evening here in the area that's in the bright red shaded area. But I want to show you the flooding concerns certainly here across Alabama and Mississippi. Wilcox County under a flash flood warning right now. Alberta, Camden, Pine Hill, you're included in that. Some pretty good storms tonight, and then following behind that, another line of storms. So the warnings extend back into Wayne County tonight, back into Mississippi. There's the state line right there, Alabama right here, Mississippi on this side. But that warning goes until 9:45 tonight. Some of the rainfall rates here could exceed an inch an hour. Take you back over to Louisiana now. Pretty good lightning jump in a big storm complex here in East Carroll and West Carroll parishes. So Forest and Pioneer, in those towns, you'll want to be inside this evening. Some larger hail could be seen with this as it's raced northbound of I-20 at this point. Back around Atlanta, you've been stuck in the dreary weather today. Temperatures cool in the 40s. More stable air, meaning more lighter showers for you, not necessarily thunderstorms. That's probably for now a very good thing, but more storms could fire up late tomorrow and into Thursday in this area, Alex.
Well, there's still time left to prepare for tomorrow's tornado threat, including making sure your storm shelter is stocked with all the essentials. Dr. Knabb back with a look at what you should have in your emergency kit.
We need to fantasize reality a little bit here, and I want you to think about what it would really be like if a tornado hit your home or strong winds brought a tree down onto your home while you're in it. Now, this applies to whether or not you have one of those FEMA approved safe rooms that we've talked about. But if you just have a safest spot in your home that you're going to go to, all of you need to have most of these supplies. Now, if you don't have one of those FEMA safe rooms, you want to have down in your shelter or bring down there when you go some extra protection to live through the tornado because, again, the house might be crumbling around you and a little extra protection from a big mattress. Now, this is one of those inflatable ones that you can leave it uninflated down in the shelter, and then when there's a tornado watch or whatever issue, to go blow it up. And this can provide extra shelter from flying debris that could be coming at you. Also, for every person down there, adults and kids, bicycle helmets. This can really protect you from flying debris when things fall down. Now, for everybody, whether or not you're in a safe room or not, you want to have the rest of this with you. This is a multi-band weather radio. It has AM, FM, and NOAA weather radio because, if power goes out, you're not going to be listening to the television, and if your cell signals go out, this is going to be really, really useful. And this doubles, by the way, as a portable cell phone charger because it has a USB port down here on the bottom. So you charge it with this cable, but then your cell phone can plug into this and charge remotely without the power being on in your home. Now, imagine if things fell down in your home. What do you want to have? You want to be able to see because the power might go out, and you want to have portable lighting so you can see what's going on. You should have very sturdy shoes because if you have to walk out of a damaged or nearly destroyed home, you're going to be stepping on pieces of your home, sharp objects. Same thing why you want to have the gloves. And if your home is really heavily damaged, you want to be ready for rain on you as you're in that area waiting for help. So have rain jackets, even a hammer to break yourself out of crumbled debris around you, and a whistle to signal for help. And if one of you is injured while the tornado has gone by, you want to have a first aid kit so you can tend to yourself while you're waiting for help to come. And if you're trapped in a damaged home, can you imagine what if you can't get to the rest of your home or you don't know where your really critical prescription drugs have gone? Fire extinguisher in case a fire breaks out, and put all those important insurance documents in a fireproof, waterproof container, maybe down in your shelter so you can take it with you for the insurance claim.
And if you don't have a shelter in your home, check with your local county office to find out where public shelters are located. This is something you can do tomorrow morning so you know where it is. In Lafayette County, Mississippi, the fire department tweeted out a link to this page showing all the tornado shelters in the area. So you can look at your neighborhood, find the closest shelter, and plan to spend the day and even night there if possible. If you know somebody who is living in one of those manufactured or mobile homes and you've got a sturdier shelter, invite them over to, spend the night, got to take care of each other, and you want to make sure you are spending the afternoon, evening, and overnight in a safe structure. Well, we've got another hour of Weather Underground headed your way after this. Much more on our top story. We are breaking down tomorrow's threat of dangerous storms, including strong, long-track tornadoes. And dangerous severe weather to watch tonight. We'll break down the threat and the timing for parts of the plains.
This program brought to you.
Dangerous days ahead as we track severe weather across the South for you. It could be an outbreak, and it's a multi-day threat with tornadoes, damaging winds, and large hail, all likely from Oklahoma to Texas and into the Carolinas. But the real threat really ramps up tomorrow. We go in depth on who could see strong, long track and possibly violent tornadoes and where the danger will increase in the overnight hours.
And staying weather aware right now, absolutely critical for anyone living in the South. We're going to take you through the multi-day threat hour by hour, and we'll highlight the dangers for major cities from Little Rock to Birmingham to Atlanta. And we've got important information to help you get through the next few days safely, including how to find the safest spot in your home to take shelter. It's all coming up next on Weather Underground.
We are glad you are with us tonight for a very important edition of Weather Underground. I'm Mike Bettis.
I'm Alex Wilson. We got Dr. Knabb here with us. As you mentioned, very important because we're really in the beginnings of a severe weather outbreak that's already begun. But Mike, tomorrow looks to be the biggest day. And so now is the time to think about how you can prepare.
Yeah, really maybe the most violent day that we've seen all year long. And that's saying something. You can see the area highlighted on your screen. That purple is not a good look, Alex.
No, that is a Torcon of 7, parts of Arkansas, all the way over into Alabama. So we are talking Memphis, Birmingham, Jackson, Mississippi, all with a Torcon of 7. That means tornadoes likely across this region, and some of those could be strong or long track. And we're going to be breaking down each and every one of tomorrow's dangerous threats. However, Mike, tonight also bringing the opportunity for storms.
Yeah, and the one thing about tonight's storms across the Southeast is they are producing a lot of heavy rain. And we think of places like Montgomery and Jackson, you're at risk for the flash flooding, numerous flash flood warnings. And I do want to tell you this, that the Alabama governor, Kay Ivey, has already issued a state of emergency ahead of tomorrow's big risk. And so what that means is that now you're going to see activation of the emergency system there, the Emergency Operations Center, and they're going to be really keeping an active eye on what's happening for us here across the South. You can see where the storms are firing right now. A lot of heavy rain in there with some flooding, more or less light rain for you around Atlanta. More severe weather is possible here, especially in that bright red location on your map. But that's where the warm and unstable air is right now. It's all right in here, okay? But where you have the cooler air is right back in this pocket here, where you've got the colder temperatures that are riding down the eastern side of the Appalachians. We call that the wedge. And so that may actually really tamper down any risk for heavy rain and thunderstorms tonight. But that corridor right in there has really got some heavy duty stuff going on right now. And so the heavy rain causing flooding, including around Camden, over toward Braggs, Alabama here, Wilcox County with a flash flood warning. That's until 5:30 this evening. I wouldn't be surprised if they extend that. The reason being those storms are moving in that direction. But we've got Wayne County under a flash flood warning right now. That's until 9:45. All these storms are going over the same places here. So we've got training thunderstorms, and that's a bad setup for you here when they're all just in a line, going one after another, and you end up getting 4 or 5 inches of rain, just like that. For Atlanta, as I mentioned, more hit and miss with the showers right now. Temperatures have been cool, only in the 40s this afternoon, whereas the temperatures down in here have been in the 60s this afternoon. So that's why we have a little bit more juice in the atmosphere, if you will, to produce these storms. So I think the heavy stuff is likely south of I-24 this evening, but the next couple of hours, that corridor right in there is going to be in trouble. Then overnight tonight, Arkansas starts to get lit up, and right at the beginning of your rush hour tomorrow in Memphis, guess what? Thunderstorms right on top of us, but that's going to be just the beginning. Dr. Knabb, you're taking a look at some of the ingredients that we're watching tonight, including that dry line and the all-important cap.
Yeah, in the southern plains, Oklahoma and Texas, we are expecting severe thunderstorms starting late tonight into tomorrow morning, but it's not happening yet. So what is up with that? Why do we know that the threat exists for later tonight, but why isn't it happening yet? After all, it's plenty warm in Texas, 70s and 80s. You need warm, moist air. We got lots of moisture in central and eastern Texas. But what is up with that dry line? We have this very distinctive line, and it often forms in these situations, the delineation at the surface between very moist air and very dry air. Dew point of 10, relative humidity of 6 at Midland, whereas you got a relative humidity of 54% at Dallas. So that's part of it. But we do have plenty of moisture to the east there, but the problem is that we are capped, as we call it, as Mike was alluding to, is we have a cap on the atmosphere that's keeping thunderstorms from developing out of that warm, moist air at the surface. And that dry line that's out in here at the surface is one and the same with the cap that is over on top of the rest of Texas, where you do have the warm, moist air at the surface. And also, we're waiting for this cold air aloft from our upper level system to come in. Once you take that cold air, put it over that warm, moist air at the surface, then you can break that cap. But here is how the dry line and the cap are related. If you go from, say, Lubbock, Texas, through Abilene down to Dallas, you go from an elevation of about 3,200 feet over to Dallas, where the elevation is only about 400 feet. And you have dry air at the surface out here, and that dry air stays at about the same altitude. It's here where the dry air at the higher elevation, farther west, leaves the surface, and you have this warm, dry air above the moist air that's down below. And this is the cap. So for now, that cap is in place, but when we add more warm, moist air later tonight at the surface, and that cold air comes in from the west, you get enough instability to break through that cap. And Alex, instead of afternoon heating fueled thunderstorms, we get midnight thunderstorms.
Yeah. So just because you're going to bed and you haven't seen storms yet doesn't mean the storms aren't coming, right? Oklahoma City and Dallas, both in the upper 70s right now, both cloudy, but both watching for those storms as we head into the late evening and overnight hours. We look at Dallas-Fort Worth first, and dinner time, quiet. Evening, generally quiet, maybe a few scattered storms out there, but look what happens as we head into the overnight hours. You can see those storms entering stage left. So coming into the Fort Worth area, Weatherford during the early to mid-morning hours. I think mid-morning for you in Dallas could be the early part of your commute on Wednesday, where you're up against those thunderstorms. They'll be out of here by 7 o'clock most likely. So if you're towards the late part of the morning commute, maybe okay on the roads, but you may be waking up a little bit earlier than you usually do because of the thunderstorms. Oklahoma City, yet another spot where we've got a very early morning threat for your storms. Evening, quiet. We get past midnight, though, and you can see finally some action showing up on the radar. And as we get towards 4 or 5 o'clock, we're watching the Oklahoma City metro area. That will continue through about 6, 7 a.m. Now, this particular radar doesn't show anything in downtown Oklahoma City, but I want you to know that everybody's got the chance. So make sure you are aware of that threat, have a way to get the warnings, and know where to go should the warnings come in for your area. Wichita, Kansas, evening, dinner time, you are staying dry. By the time we get to about 10 o'clock, a few thunderstorms beginning to enter the picture, and you can see they'll be sticking with us through about midnight. Another round coming in, much more widespread as we head towards 2, 3, 4 a.m. with that heavy rain lingering toward the early part of your commute. So could also be dealing with some water issues given how widespread and heavy that rain likely will be. Moving towards the big picture, the entire region again, this evening, anything we see should be scattered at best, but we get you into the overnight, and that's when things really begin to light up across Kansas and Oklahoma, and early tomorrow morning, Texas in on the mix as well. Mike?
Well, this multi-day threat really began over the weekend, continued yesterday, and it's just going today as well. This was Stillwell, Kansas, where we had pretty solid tornado here. The same areas in a bullseye for tornadoes with tomorrow's outbreak. All right. One thing to remind you of, if you can put your phone on manual focus, sometimes it helps. The phone was focusing on the raindrops on the window there. All right, so Wednesday through Thursday, here's what we know. An outbreak of severe thunderstorms is expected with tornadoes very possible. There's going to be a threat for violent tornadoes. Could be widespread damaging winds and very large hail. A few strong, long-track, long-lived tornadoes are quite possible for us here. And there are several ingredients we look at to see what the threat of severe weather would be. The acronym we use is SLIM. It's shear, lift, instability, and moisture. High amounts of shear and lift, and sometimes if you got enough low-level shear, you can overcome anything else that you might be missing. Instability is medium, moisture is medium, but I think we're going to be off to the races overnight tonight and tomorrow as well. Not to mention Thursday is going to have a threat across the southeast, including through the Carolinas. But let's look at tomorrow and your Torcon. I know a lot of you are familiar with the Torcon. We've been using it for over a decade here at the Weather Channel. A Torcon of 7 for us here across the south. So we've got a higher chance now of tornadoes. It's going to be the highest Torcon of the year so far. A 5 that's highlighted in that darker red location. So here's what's going on in the atmosphere. We've got strong upper level winds that are shooting their way across the south and the mid-south in particular. At the surface, we're going to have a couple different features in place here, including a warm front right here and a cold front right here. Usually in between those is where you've got the most unstable air. So that's where the most likely location is for the really strong storms to form. There's the surface low. That's the energy. Everything pushing east with the moisture flowing out of the Gulf of Mexico is a recipe for storms. So strong southerly flow, and then that shifts through the afternoon a little bit more southwest. Low level shear will be present here, and a lot of times, as I mentioned, low level shear, fewest couple thousand feet in the atmosphere, right down toward the surface. Boy, you get that in high amounts, you can overcome just about anything else, and you can get tornadoes to form. Now we're going to get strong southwesterly flow, and I think especially later in the event tomorrow, you're going to end up seeing a really strong squall line rip across the southeast, and that may contain, with winds aligning at the surface and the upper air, what you're going to see is really strong high wind threat come with this, meaning straight line winds. But there is a threat for hail, and we think that some of these could support, with the strong updrafts, could support quarter size to baseball size hail. So there's a look at the damaging wind threat for us tomorrow. Darkest blue, same areas we're likely to see the hail. 1 inch or greater is likely in the dark purple here. And that means find a place to park your car, Alex, or it's going to get dinged up tomorrow.
Yeah, a lot to think about, right? Make sure all your property's secure. Make sure your family is safe, your four-legged family as well. Make sure, if the cat's always running around the house, make sure maybe he or she's in a room. So should you need to go to the basement, your safe shelter, you know where to find them. Let's time this out for you. Starting off tomorrow morning, 4 a.m. You can see there's plenty of activity on the radar, northern Alabama and Mississippi, across parts of Arkansas and Tennessee. That's where we're at still at the mid-morning. But by the time we get you to late morning and early afternoon, you can see our area of thunderstorms that will become the dominant area already shaping up across parts of Arkansas and Louisiana. That pushes east during the afternoon. And while we're seeing an overall line, I do think that we will have some of those supercell thunderstorms, those individual storms. Those are the ones that produce the rotating updrafts. Those are the ones that more often than not are the ones that produce the large hail that Mike mentioned, and also the tornadoes. Not just tornadoes, but strong tornadoes and long track tornadoes from our supercell thunderstorms. Hail, I think, very likely out of the storms, as well as gusty damaging winds. Don't want to downplay that threat, but of course supercell thunderstorms more likely or oftentimes bring those other threats as well. All severe threats are on the table though, and that continues after the sun goes down. You see here at 9 o'clock, Mississippi, Tennessee, northern Alabama in the mix, and that continues to move east, that threat, as we get into the late evening and overnight hours. So we'll be watching parts of central and eastern Tennessee, parts of North Georgia, parts of Alabama as we head into the overnight hours. So, Mike, super crucial. You have a way to get the alerts while you're sleeping, because for many people, it is going to be that time frame when you're in bed that the storms roll through. All right, Alex, thank you very much. I'm going to take you to Memphis and show you what's going on here in Memphis. That's a look at, Graceland, Elvis. We got a warm, humid atmosphere right now. It's 78 degrees for us right now. And so be aware that we've got a threat that's coming for us here, folks. It's really going to cause us some issues over the course of the next 24 plus hours or so. So for Memphis, we're going to show you a particular Torcon here, and a Torcon of 7. And really what that means is now we're getting higher on our scale. It's a 1 to 10 scale here. A 1 is a low threat, a 10 is a high threat. We're at a 7 in Memphis. Up around Jackson will be a 5. What it means is pay very close attention to the weather tomorrow. Tonight, we're going to have a few scattered showers out there, but I think tomorrow morning, watch for the first round of storms to come in.
Some of those could be severe. Then we're going to get another round that comes in maybe right before lunchtime. Those could be severe. And then you'll get some more storms that begin to fire up for us later in the day. Now, 6, 7, 8 o'clock. And those also could be severe for us here. So a couple of different areas to keep an eye on. Birmingham, we've got a 7 on our Torcon. Again, higher on the scale now. Over toward Gadsden, maybe a 5. But Tuscaloosa, Jasper, a Coleman, all a 7. What's our timing here in Birmingham? Few light scattered showers overnight tonight, but then about 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, watch this line form here across central Alabama and then work its way up 22 and 65. And it may hang out north of Birmingham in the morning. Then, middle of the day, watch these storms now fire. And some of these storms could be severe. High winds, hailers, could see some tornado spin-ups in that. The threat is going to be off and on through the evening then, and then about 3 o'clock in the morning or so, you're going to get a line that comes on through, and that line could contain some very high winds and maybe some embedded tornadoes as well. For Atlanta tomorrow, this will end up being later in the day, a Torcon of 3, all right? So your risk is now a little bit lower. Timing of the day is important here. So you're on the lower end of the scale. But what's the timing? Tonight, scattered showers out there, not a big deal. Nothing's going to be severe. Most of your day, at least the first half of your day, is going to be in pretty good shape. North of Atlanta, you're going to have some issues now. Just before lunchtime, could include Kennesaw and up I-75. Then watch some more storms coming around dinner time or drive time tomorrow. Chances some of these storms could be severe. Hail and high winds, I think, is going to be an issue for us, Alex, and an isolated chance here of some tornadoes in the Atlanta metro.
A lot of places that need to be weather alert. And coming up on the show, danger does not diminish at night. So we're going to tell you why now is the time to plan your safe spot and how to pick your safe spot should a tornado threaten in the middle of the night.
It was just living in the moment of disbelief.
We really were caught off guard.
We couldn't leave. We were stuck there.
There was going to be nothing we could do except try to make it through safely.
That is the most scared that I have felt in my life.
Oh my God! It's surreal. Holy!
Hey, preparing for what's setting up to be a real severe outbreak tomorrow. Right now, Torcons of 7 in Huntsville, 5 in Mobile, 3 in New Orleans. So we're looking at a threat of tornadoes tomorrow, and it ranges from low to medium to relatively high, all right? So what exactly is a Torcon, you're thinking? I know I've seen the numbers before, but what exactly does it mean? We've been doing this for about a decade or so here at the Weather Channel, and it just kind of is a scale to rank your tornado risk, all right? 1 to 10 scale. We all know that, right? So if you got a Torcon of 3, you're on the lower end of the scale, means that severe thunderstorms are likely to happen and maybe a few tornadoes are possible. Tornado watches could be issued, but not necessarily, all right? Now, if you've got a Torcon of 5, you've got a medium chance of a tornado here, but dangerous weather is anticipated. Tornado watches are likely to happen. Strong tornadoes are possible, meaning a tornado of EF2 strength or greater. So I want you to monitor the forecast very frequently with a Torcon of 5. Pay very close attention to the weather with a Torcon of 7. Numerous tornadoes possible. Increased chance for the strong tornadoes, EF2 or higher. Some of those storms could be on the ground for a long time too. We're talking 10, 20, 30 plus miles, meaning when they're on the ground for that long a time, Alex, they can do a lot of damage. Tomorrow, 7 in a lot of places in the southeast.
Absolutely. And we'll be watching for the threat of damaging winds tonight. Storms moving through parts of Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas. And then, of course, places like Oxford, Mississippi early tomorrow, but even during the afternoon. Parts of Mississippi, you're going to have some thunderstorms out there to start the day. And then, of course, the main event coming later in the afternoon. So tomorrow, threat of damaging winds likely for parts of Louisiana and Arkansas, southern Missouri, all the way over into western Georgia. Again, a lot of real estate that we need to stay on track of, or on top of, stay on track tomorrow, because we're going to be looking at storms across some big metro areas across the south. 45 to 57 mile per hour winds. Now, this is sub-severe criteria, but still at this point, you can get trees bending. You can get some of those small limbs breaking off of trees, and you can get some cosmetic damage to homes. We up the ante, we get us into severe weather criteria, or severe thunderstorm criteria, 58 to 74 mile per hour winds. Here, large tree limbs are going to break. Shallow rooted trees are pushed over. Semi-trucks overturned. So you can see why we see the warnings issued once we reach that threshold. Then, not uncommon, not out of the question to see winds of 75 to 90 miles an hour within these storms. That's widespread tree damage. That's where you're going to see those drone shots of, trees taken down over a wide swath. Roof damage to homes, and weak structures may actually sustain significant damage. So super important that, even when we're not talking about a super high tornado threat, if damaging winds are in the forecast, this can cause a lot of problems. Then there's the rain that's going to come from these storms. And Dr. Knabb, we've got a flash flood threat, too.
We certainly do. So we have so many reasons to be staying off the roads. And that what Alex just talked about, too, is a reminder. If you got trees in your area, shelter for a severe thunderstorm warning like you would for a tornado. And like for tornadoes and severe thunderstorm winds, flash flooding provides us lots of motivation not to be on the roads. That's starting tonight. We've already got the front kind of attached to the old system that's departing, that's kind of getting attached to the new low. That is already a focus for showers and thunderstorms, just like it will be tomorrow. And we've got training going across southern portions of Mississippi and Alabama. You see the overshooting tops on the visible there here with the late afternoon viz shot. Just too many showers and thunderstorms going over the same spots over the last 24 hours. Some areas have gotten more than a half a foot of rain, and this is just setting the table, making the soil more moist for knocking down trees more easily and having more flash flooding tomorrow. We've got lots of flash flood warnings here, southeastern Mississippi, southwestern Alabama. East of Hattiesburg, we still have this warning in Waynesboro till 9:45 local time. A number of reports of water-covered roads in and around that area. And now we've got this big flash flood warning in southwestern Alabama. Includes Thomasville and Camden and Butler. This goes till 10:45 local time. As it gets dark, even during daylight savings time, stay off those water-covered roads. Really hard to tell what road is covered in water when it's dark. Already getting reports of that happening. Now we've got a flood advisory in Clayton, Alabama, and this could become a warning later. In Montgomery, over to Columbus, Georgia, over to Macon. That's where we could have some training showers and thunderstorms tonight. And then, in addition to the severe risk tomorrow, Mike, a widespread flood risk from Missouri through Tennessee down into Alabama and Georgia.
Those are a lot of states. Dr. Knabb, thank you. And still to come on Weather Underground. More on the timing and who's at risk tomorrow with the threat of significant long-track tornadoes and dangerous storms lasting well into the overnight hours. Of course, we are following the radar for you this evening as well. Dr. Knabb just focusing on some of those flash flood warnings we have out there, but this area stays active for the next several hours.
This program.
Well, welcome back into Weather Underground on this Tuesday. I'm Alex Wilson.
Everyone, I'm Mike Bettis. Glad you're watching us tonight. We're watching the threat for severe weather tonight, tomorrow, even Thursday, from Texas to Georgia and beyond. So this is one to really keep a close eye on. We're already seeing the flooding happening for us. Yeah. Tonight, unfortunately, it only gets worse from here. So a lot of things to keep a very close tabs on, including places like Marengo County, Alabama. Look at this. We've got some flooding occurring. Now, here's the takeaway from this. Okay, maybe it's not necessarily coming up over, and you can see the storm drain there. Maybe it's not necessarily coming up over the road, but knowing that a lot of places are already, the creeks and streams are already full, the weather that's about to come in is not helpful. Let's just put it that way. And maybe another reminder here, if you live in a vulnerable area and you've got maybe a storm drain out front of your house you know, it wouldn't be a bad idea to take the rake out there and kind of clean out any debris that might be in front of us so the water can drain freely into it. That was kind of a reminder with what the debris was flowing around in that one, right? So we've got some storms that are strong tonight, producing some heavy thunderstorms here with really intense rain tonight. A lot of areas here in the unstable atmosphere right here between the fronts. That's where you're going to see the most activity and the most thunderstorms form here. Notice back in this area, we've got some colder air. You're stuck in what's known as the wedge with the cold air coming down the Appalachians. You've been, just hit and miss with some showers today, nothing particularly heavy. But these storms here really causing us some issues with the flooding. So there's a look, Waynesboro over toward Thomasville here, Mississippi into Alabama, Choctaw, Clark, and Wilcox County, all under flash flood warnings. Over into Waynesboro area, including Wayne County in Mississippi, flash flood warning for us until 9:45 tonight. We just advise you stay off the roads in these locations because we think the storms will be there for the next couple of hours and the flooding may only get worse from this point going on. So there's kind of a boundary sitting down through here, and that's the area where the strongest rain showers will be for the remainder of the night tonight. I think we've got a couple more hours to go, and then things will start to lighten up for us a little bit overnight tonight. I think in a place like Atlanta, you're going to end up dealing with the same thing. Lighter showers tonight, but watch the storms then get going tomorrow overnight and early morning hours, 7 o'clock in the morning, starting your rush hour. Guess what, Alex? Got storms coming right through Memphis, and that's just going to set off a chain of events throughout the afternoon.
Yeah, it could be a really problematic morning drive for some folks, too. So don't, again, just think it's, just that prime, 4 to 9 p.m. time. We're going to be watching throughout the day tomorrow. And Torcon values of a 7 for Jackson, Mississippi, for Birmingham, for Memphis, as well as many other communities across Alabama, Arkansas, Tennessee, Mississippi. A 7 on the Torcon, by the way, that's going to indicate that we think we're going to see several tornadoes. They're likely in the area, and some of these could be on the strong side and could be long track tornadoes. Everywhere you see that purple shading, that's where we've got Torcon of 7. So very likely that we are seeing severe weather, and that includes the threat of tornadoes. Supercell thunderstorms likely. We've got that turning of winds with height, wind shear, and that allows those storms to develop those rotating updrafts capable of producing large hail, capable of producing the stronger tornadoes. But as I mentioned, all modes of severe weather most certainly on the table tomorrow. Waking up to some storms tomorrow across parts of northern Alabama, western Tennessee. But as we go through the late morning and early afternoon, you see the main event beginning to take shape across parts of Arkansas and Louisiana. And while we are looking at a line, there will be individual thunderstorms, supercells along that line, and those are going to be the ones that could possibly, and we think likely, produce at least some tornadoes here. We get you into the late evening, 11 o'clock, and we're not done. The storms don't just turn off because the sun has gone down. In fact, we're going to keep the storm threat going across parts of Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, even into the early and mid-morning hours of your Thursday. We look at the Atlanta area. If you're familiar with parts of the southeast where the wedge is common, today was a perfect example of a wedge day. Cloudy, cool, pesky light rain showers. We start off the day with that wedge still in place. You see very little instability across the metro, but as that warm front lifts north, you're going to see that instability advance into the Atlanta metro area. This is 9 o'clock. Some thunderstorms out there, particularly in North Georgia, but I think enough instability that as that line continues eastward into parts of Georgia early Thursday, we could very likely be looking at some strong and severe thunderstorms on the west, north side of town, and even into the metro area during the morning commute on Thursday.
Okay,
Mike?
Alex, thank you. And coming up on Weather Underground, important information to help you make it through the next several days safely and to find the sturdiest spot in your home to take shelter and then what to do once you're there. It's all coming up. And watching the radar active stuff tonight, especially across Mississippi and Alabama. Numerous storms producing heavy rain and flash flooding tonight. Be careful around Montgomery.
Advanced
Underground, it's Heavy Rescue 401. And tonight, organized chaos as the crew scrambles to keep the roads open during a whiteout.
Visibility is like dropping by the minute. Cars are going into the ditches right now. Oh wow, he went in pretty good.
So right now I'm just trying to dig this car out so I can find something to hook onto. She's buried pretty good, so I don't want to wreck anything underneath. Oh, okay, that's deep.
This is really hard-packed snow. This car is just wedged in there.
We can't even stop the traffic. They don't care enough to slow down for us. Oh, that is nasty on the face. Right now, I'm just trying to get something underneath this thing to, oh, there we go, to hook it. Okay, let's see if this thing will come out for us. Oh, come on. The cable's binding up. This is a horrible time for stuff to break on me.
It's getting really nasty, and the longer that I'm standing, the more chances of me getting hit.
You'll see heavy rescue coming up next, 8/7 Central.
I want to take you back in time a few days ago in Thornton, Colorado. That is part of the Denver metro area, and that is a look at all the snow. Yeah, turning those cars into just snow lumps, right? Now, I told you yesterday some more snow on the way. Nothing like what we saw, though, over the weekend. So no need to worry about that, right? Denver, you've got light snow showers around, a little bit more in the way of moderate snow down into the southern part of Colorado, South Colorado, northern New Mexico. That's where we're going to see some higher totals. I think getting into that 5 to 8 inch range with some isolated spots, even getting a little over 8 inches. But for Denver, 1 to 3 at best across the metro area, and not even everybody in the metro area gets that. So our timing is this afternoon, this evening for Denver to see those snow showers down towards Pueblo and Taos, New Mexico. You guys have a little bit more in the way of moderate snow, I think, overnight and into the early morning hours. But by 4 a.m., moving out of these areas. So it's a quick hitter that'll leave a good bit of snow there as we get into elevation across southern Colorado, northern New Mexico. Tomorrow morning for the a.m. hours, you're waking up, having breakfast, parts of western Kansas, Oklahoma, and the panhandle of Texas getting in on a little of that wintry weather, including around Amarillo, where, of course, we were watching severe weather over the weekend. So things change, right? This part of the country this time of year. Now, Wednesday night, rain and thunderstorms on the northern side. You know, we haven't been talking much about these areas because not as much at risk of severe weather like our friends to the south, but Midwest, northeastern states get in on the rain Wednesday, Thursday, and by Thursday night, actually seeing a little rain snow mix from parts of West Virginia and Maryland, Pennsylvania, up into our New England states. We'll end with some snow showers on Friday for New York, for Boston, for Hartford, Connecticut, and Providence, Rhode Island. And I think a lot of you are going, tomorrow is St. Patrick's Day. We should not be talking about snow anymore, Mike. But it's not unusual.
No, every now and then we do get some snow on St. Patrick's Day or even after St. Patrick's Day, believe it or not.
Those who live there are used to it, you know, and I'm sure you guys have done your St. Patty's Day celebrations or parties in the snow in past years, which just kind of adds to the fun,
Guaranteed, right? So let's talk a little bit more about this snow forecast here in the Northeast. Now, it's not a big snow, but it's been cool lately, and we're going to stay cold. And Thursday into Friday, you know, a lot of us are going to see around an inch, but some of us, including Boston or Worcester, Manchester, Concord, up around Portland, could we see upwards of 3 inches of snow? It's possible. Now, how much snow do we typically get after St. Patrick's Day? Not a ton, but maybe more than you thought. In fact, in Boston, we get about 4.5 inches of snow after St. Patrick's Day. That's still 11% of your snow season still to go. In Concord, we pick up 7, Portland 7.5, 12% of your snow season comes after St. Patrick's Day typically. Now, you take a look at a few other places. Worcester, 6.8 inches after St. Patrick's Day. Providence, we don't get a lot historically after St. Patrick's Day, about 2.5 inches. You only have about 7% of your snow season still to go. And in Bangor, a little farther north, we get a little bit more, 8.2 inches after St. Patrick's Day. Some areas here highlighted in blue in particular, where we've had some surpluses for snow this year, running more than a foot above in New York, about 7.5 inches above in Harrisburg. Just a minor surplus for you in Philadelphia, but deficits, pretty good deficits in Portland, Burlington, double-digit deficit in Buffalo, and 32 inches below average in Erie. We picked up 60 inches, which seems pretty good, right, Alex? But we didn't hardly ever talk about lake effect snow this year, especially in Erie. So 32-inch deficit this year.
Yeah, it does. Now I think a lot of people go, we really haven't seen much, have we? Well, still to come on the show, we are going to see quite a bit of severe weather, and we're breaking down tomorrow's threat as we think it's likely an outbreak is unfolding across the South. We'll show you specific spots where significant tornadoes could strike and how to determine where in your home is the safest place to ride out a storm. We're going to go through the places and also the things you should have in that spot next.
Dental implants are going to give people that full aspect of their life back.
At Clear Choice, we've been doing this for many, many years, and I think we truly help patients change their lives here.
It's so meaningful to be a part of that impact.
All right, thanks for being with us here on Weather Underground tonight. We've got some active weather across the southeast and just the start of what is going to be a multi-day severe weather outbreak. Excuse me, this area that's highlighted in red, that's the most likely area for thunderstorms for the remainder of the night tonight. But also notice here, that'd be severe thunderstorms. But also notice we've got thunderstorms right through here, especially through Alabama, that are producing some really heavy rain tonight, and flooding is ongoing. Flash flood warnings persist here, including Choctaw, Clark, and Wilcox County. So say Thomasville toward Camden, over toward Braggs tonight, and then back around Waynesboro. The rain has ended for us. The flash flood warning remains, though. Be concerned around Gilbertown, but in particular, I think Thomaston is an area that we're going to watch very, very closely. Over into Louisiana, around Monroe, coming across I-20 right now. You've got a cluster of thunderstorms there, but also one coming right across the Mississippi River right now, headed toward Greenville, Mississippi, maybe just to the east of Greenville. Birmingham toward Atlanta, not a ton going on for us right now. Some scattered showers out there, although one little moderate shower here right along I-20 north of Carrollton, just sliding now north of I-20. Alex?
And there's still time left to prepare for tomorrow's tornado threat. That includes making sure your storm shelter is stocked with all the essentials. Dr. Knabb has a look at what you should have in your emergency kit.
We need to fantasize reality a little bit here, and I want you to think about what it would really be like if a tornado hit your home or strong winds brought a tree down onto your home while you're in it. Now, this applies to whether or not you have one of those FEMA approved safe rooms that we've talked about. But if you just have a safest spot in your home that you're going to go to, all of you need to have most of these supplies. Now, if you don't have one of those FEMA safe rooms, you want to have down in your shelter or bring down there when you go some extra protection to live through the tornado, because, again, the house might be crumbling around you, and a little extra protection from a big mattress. Now, this is one of those inflatable ones that you can leave it uninflated down in the shelter, and then when there's a tornado watch or whatever issue, to go blow it up. And this can provide extra shelter from flying debris that could be coming at you. Also, for every person down there, adults and kids, bicycle helmets. This can really protect you from flying debris when things fall down. Now, for everybody, whether you're in a safe room or not, you want to have the rest of this with you. This is a multi-band weather radio. It has AM, FM, and NOAA weather radio because, if power goes out, you're not going to be listening to the television, and if your cell signals go out, this is going to be really, really useful. And this doubles, by the way, as a portable cell phone charger because it has a USB port down here on the bottom. So you charge it with this cable, but then your cell phone can plug into this and charge remotely without the power being on in your home. Now, imagine if things fell down in your home. What do you want to have? You want to be able to see because the power might go out, and you want to have portable lighting so you can see what's going on. You should have very sturdy shoes because if you have to walk out of a damaged or nearly destroyed home, you're going to be stepping on pieces of your home, sharp objects. Same thing why you want to have the gloves. And if your home is really heavily damaged, you want to be ready for rain on you as you're in that area waiting for help. So have rain jackets, even a hammer to break yourself out of crumbled debris around you, and a whistle to signal for help. And if one of you is injured while the tornado has gone by, you want to have a first aid kit so you can tend to yourself while you're waiting for help to come. And if you're trapped in a damaged home, can you imagine what if you can't get to the rest of your home? You don't know where your really critical prescription drugs have gone. Fire extinguisher in case a fire breaks out, and put all those important insurance documents in a fireproof, waterproof container, maybe down in your shelter so you can take it with you for the insurance claim.
And if you don't have a shelter in your home, you want to check with your local county office to find out where public shelters are located. For example, we did this for Lafayette County, Mississippi. The fire department tweeted out a link to the page showing all the tornado shelters in the area. So you can check your county, see which one's closest to your neighborhood. Or, if you have a friend or relative that maybe is in a sturdier shelter, or maybe you have somebody who's in a less desirable spot to be, a mobile home, a manufactured home, invite them to spend the night and kind of do like as socially distant as possible, but a slumber party with everybody in a safe place to ride out these storms. We got much more on another hour of Weather Underground. Our top story, of course, timing out the threat of strong, long-track tornadoes as that threat increases into our Wednesday. And we've got dangerous severe storms we're watching tonight, our multi-day outbreak unfolding. We've got everything you need to know. We'll track storms into Thursday across the southeast as well when Weather Underground returns right after this.
On Weather Underground, dangerous days ahead as we track a severe weather outbreak across the south. We're going to time out this multi-day threat with tornadoes, damaging winds, and large hail, all likely from Oklahoma and Texas all the way to the Carolinas. But the threat really ramps up tomorrow. We're going to go in depth on who could see strong, long track, and possibly violent tornadoes and where the danger will increase in the overnight hours.
And staying weather aware right now, absolutely critical for anyone living in the south. We're going to take you through the multi-day threat hour by hour. We'll highlight the dangers for major cities in the path. We're talking Little Rock to Birmingham to Atlanta. We also have important information to help you get through the next several days safely, including where in your home is the safest spot to take shelter and what should you have in that shelter. It's all coming out next on Weather Underground.
Thanks so much for being with us tonight here on Weather Underground. I'm Mike Bettis.
I'm Alex Wilson. We have Dr. Knabb in the house as well. We've got truly team coverage for you tonight as we are awaiting, Mike, as you said, what could be the most dangerous day of severe weather we've had so far this year.
We don't often throw Torcon 7s up on the screen, but we will tonight.
Absolutely. The Storm Prediction Center has upgraded us to a moderate risk for severe weather on Wednesday. That is the purple shading you see there on the map. And it's not a small zone either. It's a large area from Arkansas and Louisiana all the way over to nearly the Georgia state line with Alabama. A lot of Alabama and Mississippi included within that. Torcons of 7 for many of those cities, all of which shaded in purple. And we're going to break down the threats we're facing on Wednesday and how you should prepare. But Mike, there's severe weather possible tonight as well.
There is a couple of areas across the south we could be watching for those storms to flare up. In particular, though, the thunderstorms have caused some heavy rain and flooding. You're looking at Jackson, Mississippi, Montgomery, Alabama. Both places where we could be looking for storms tonight. I think in particular Montgomery and southern Alabama is an area of concern. We already have flash flooding that's occurring for us there now and reports of high water on many roadways, unfortunately. Now, there is that risk for severe storms, areas highlighted in red, in particular the bright red areas. But even outside of that, you could see some storms. But notice these storms right in here. Those are the ones that aren't necessarily severe thunderstorm warned, so they're not creating the large hail or the high winds to get that warning, but they are creating enough rain to produce flash flood warnings. Now, this is a warm, unstable atmosphere right in here, all right, in between our fronts, okay? And what you're seeing here, you see how these colors start to push their way out because of the cold air influence from those rain showers. But the cold air over here is from wind or air that's spilling down the leeward side of the mountains here. And so you've stayed cool and just showery Atlanta toward Columbia, but not thunderstorms. Here where our thunderstorms are tonight, they mean business. Thomasville, over toward, say, Waynesboro. These areas, Choctaw, Clark, and Wilcox County, all under flash flood warnings right now. Rainfall rates have been very impressive, and we are getting reports of water on roadways right now. 10:45, the expiration on that, so it lasts for a while. Waynesboro, the rain has ended for us, but our warning still goes until 9:45. Here are some of the reports that we're dealing with. In Butler, flash flooding near Bailey Road and Riverwood Drive. Roads closed because of high water. Down here in Harmony, water across the road. Cars are stranded in that water. Don't let that be you. Do you have plans to drive tonight? Change them. Do you have to go? Okay, you're saying, yes, I do have to go. I got to go to work. Okay, find another route if there's water on your typical route, all right? Just find a way around it. You don't want to risk it. This area still stays active for the next several hours, so we think there's going to be a continuation of flooding here through the night, if not even when you wake up tomorrow morning. Things then wane toward the morning hours, but now notice what other area starts to light up here, including Arkansas, then over toward Memphis across the river here. But that's the area we're most concerned about for flooding as we go through tomorrow morning. Right there, especially, I think, in southern Alabama. All right, Dr. Knapp, we were talking about through the overnight and morning hours. A couple of different things are coming together right now, we think, for severe weather there.
Yeah, but it's taking its time. You know, we are expecting later tonight into tomorrow morning severe thunderstorms, large hail, strong winds, isolated tornadoes in Texas, Oklahoma, but it's not happening yet. So what is taking the atmosphere a while to get going? It's not like it's not warm enough. We've got 70s and 80s throughout Texas, but look at Midland. Temperature's 82. And the dew point's only 25. A little while ago, it was down at 10. So it is super dry. And this is what we call the dry line. Now, east of that line at the surface that delineates dry air from moist air, we got plenty of warm, moist air, but it's low to the ground. And that setup sometimes takes a while because that dry line that's out here in Texas also is attached to dry air that is above that moist air at the surface, what we call the cap. Now, as our surface low comes out in New Mexico and strengthens, the low-level warm, moist flow will increase. So we're going to increase the moisture, increase the instability at low levels as the night goes on. But what we also have to wait for is for instability to increase with colder air aloft. This is the cold air aloft that's going to come over Texas and Oklahoma. You put this cold air over this warm, moist air, then you increase the instability. You can get through that cap. But I wanted to show you why we get that dry line in a cap. If you go from Lubbock, where the elevation is about 3,200 feet, all the way to Dallas, where the elevation is only 400 feet, you're going down in elevation. Without that change in elevation, you wouldn't have the dry line and the cap the way they are. So that's the change in elevation from Lubbock going to Dallas. But here's the dry air at the surface, and it stays at about the same altitude, but this is the cap. There's the moist air, there's the dry air. We have to overcome that cap, Alex, and eventually we will, not because of daytime heating, because we're increasing the warm, moist air at the surface and the cold air aloft. It's going to be a busy night. Maybe around midnight.
Yeah, you know, it's going to definitely be when most people are sleeping. I know some of you work in the early shifts. You may actually be out in it. So keep that in mind. Overnight, Oklahoma City and Dallas. These are two areas, two big metro areas that we think could get in on those storms while people are sleeping, or at least very, very early on Wednesday morning. So we start with Dallas. Quiet this afternoon, quiet this evening, and even into the early part of the overnight, maybe just a few hit or miss thunderstorms. The main risk, the main area of thunderstorm activity coming in Fort Worth around 4, 5 a.m. For Dallas around 6, 7 a.m. It's going to be kind of a busy early part of the commute with rain and thunderstorms moving through the 635, 30 corridor, the 20 and 45 corridors as well. I-35, expect some heavy downpours at times. By the time we get you to the late morning, you can see the threat has come to an end around the Dallas area. Oklahoma City, very similar particular. It's early tomorrow morning. So well past midnight that we begin to see those thunderstorms entering closer to the Oklahoma City area. Around 2 o'clock in the morning, Enid getting in on the storms. Watonga around 3, 4 a.m. And Oklahoma City, I think 4, 5, 6 a.m. will be your best chance time with those storms on the northeast side of town by 7 a.m. So Tulsa could be an active morning commute for you. If the kids are heading into school, may need to drive them to the bus stop or drive them to school, as you may not want them standing out waiting for the bus with thunderstorms around. Wichita, you're an area that also has the thunderstorm chance, and I think we'll see quite a bit of coverage. First area of thunderstorms possible later this evening, fairly scattered, more widespread thunderstorms coming in as we head into the early hours of our Wednesday. So 3, 4, 5 a.m. Showers and storms, heavy rain at times. I think that could lead to some flash flood issues. Be aware of that as you make your way to work or school early on Wednesday morning. Mike, the rain's done by 6, 7, but still could see some high water in spots based on how much rain is expected to fall.
Oh, for sure. Alex, thanks. We know this multi-day event, it got started over the weekend and yesterday. Tornadoes forming here. We had 8 tornadoes in Texas. We had this one in Stillwell, Kansas yesterday. This same area is under a bullseye for the outbreak tomorrow. So here's what we know about the outbreak tomorrow. Certainly an outbreak of severe thunderstorms is expected with a possible tornado outbreak. There could be a threat for several tornadoes, widespread damaging winds, and very large hail. And then a few strong, long-track tornadoes are possible, meaning they're going to be on the ground for 10, 20, 30 or more miles, potentially hitting multiple spots. Now, we look at the ingredients for severe weather on the right-hand side of your screen. Shear, lift, instability, and moisture. SLIM for short. High levels of shear and lift, medium amounts of instability and moisture, but we think enough will get going here that the storms will be very prevalent. And I often say, and we've learned from experience, if you have a lot of low-level wind shear, that can really make up for any other deficiencies you may have in the atmosphere that could hinder severe weather formation. And we do have that tomorrow. I'm just telling you. So we'll look at the map. There's a big old 7 on that map in purple. So a lot of locations where you've got a pretty elevated risk of severe weather tomorrow with tornadoes. Strong upper level winds now just pushing their way through. You're going to see those winds really push the entire complex along here. At the surface, here's what we're dealing with. Classic setup with a low here. We've got the front, the cold front there. That'll provide the lift. We've got a warm front in here, and all the moisture and instability will ride right in between those two fronts, okay? We'll have low-level moisture being transported northbound out of the Gulf of Mexico. Strong southerly winds that eventually shift southwest. We think low-level wind shear won't be a problem tomorrow. It'll be there, and this is why we think rotating supercell thunderstorms will be forming. Strong southwest winds coming in at the upper levels and mid-levels as well. Keep in mind, we also will have a similar direction for our low-level winds. So at some point in time tomorrow, those winds will all start to line up. And as they do, instead of getting the individual thunderstorms that pop, you're going to start to get a big squall line that pushes along with this front right here. And that will produce really intense straight-line winds and then embedded tornadoes along that line. So it's just something to think about late in the day tomorrow. We could have some pretty good hail with these storms as well. So this is going to be problematic for us with really strong updrafts supporting large hail that can be very damaging to your home, to your vehicle. But if you're inside, you'll be safe. Threat for damaging winds tomorrow is a large area where we have likely winds gusting over 60 miles an hour. And then hail, similar spot here, 1 inch in diameter or bigger in the dark purple. Why 1 inch in diameter? Why is that key, Alex? Well, it's been determined that 1 inch in diameter is the size needed to damage the roof of your home. So that's why that is the criteria now for severe thunderstorm warning.
A lot of homes in that area as well. All right, we're going to time out what Mike just explained, the individual supercells versus the line of storms. Tomorrow morning at 4 a.m., you can see we've already got some activity in northern Mississippi and Alabama, in parts of Arkansas and, of course, Texas. But as we get towards the mid to late morning, we're going to be watching areas in East Texas, Arkansas, and then western parts of Louisiana, seeing those storms begin to fire through the afternoon. And here, I think we're still going to be be looking at some individual supercells. We're going to be looking at the hail-producing storms. Some of these on the radar showing up with that white core. That would be indicative of a hail-producing storm. And this would be when we'd also be looking at some tornadoes. Also, you see some supercells perhaps out ahead of the line. Then, as Mike mentioned, as we head towards the late evening and overnight, we begin to see more of a line of storms. And this would be when wind would take over as one of the big threats. But again, tornado spin-ups possible along the lines, and not out of the question to see some hail. But I think the wind threat goes up, whereas the hail threat begins to wind down as we head through the overnight. And even early on Thursday morning, we're going to be looking at parts of the Florida Panhandle into the state of Georgia, including the Atlanta metro area, up towards Toccoa, getting into Greenville, South Carolina, and Asheville, North Carolina, for a very busy start to your Thursday. So plenty of communities watching for the storms tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow night, and early Thursday morning. So, Mike, super important to have a way to get the warnings and to know the timing of your threat, too, because I think a lot of you are going to maybe go to bed. It's St. Patrick's Day. You may have a little fun. Make sure, though, you know the timing and how you're going to find out if a warning's issued for your area.
Absolutely. You know, having those alerts on your phone could save your life, actually. I would take you to Memphis. It's 78 degrees right now. It's really warm. It's getting a little humid for us. That's a look at Graceland. Always beautiful, right? But tomorrow, Graceland and Memphis could be getting rocked by tornadoes. In fact, we've got a 7 on our Torcon tomorrow. Relatively high number, followed along the top of your screen up here. It's a scale that goes from 1 to 10. The higher the number, the higher your risk. Say around Jackson, around a 5, the tornado risk for you. So let's time this out for you hour by hour as we walk you through this. Overnight tonight, we're going to get a few showers, but I think in the morning is when you now see in your next round of storms. So about 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, the storms are hitting us and hitting us pretty hard in Memphis. Hail and high winds could accompany the storms, maybe an isolated tornado. Let's go late in the morning to afternoon. Things start to calm down for us a bit, and then maybe dinner time or just after dinner time, storms all around. So Memphis and Tupelo and Jackson, we're all getting hit, and that line of storms could produce high winds and tornadoes. So I think there are a couple different times that you get hit tomorrow. Just be aware, it'll be a morning and an evening threat. Let's take you to a Little Rock. We also have a 7 on our Torcon tomorrow, a 5 over on Hot Springs and Pottsville here between I-30 and I-40. What's the timing for us? Well, let's take a look at it. This evening, things aren't too bad. Tomorrow morning, early in the morning, so you're probably still sleeping. Here we are, 4 o'clock in the morning. We're getting lit up here in Little Rock and in Pottsville. Those storms could be severe. More scattered in nature through the morning. Then the atmosphere reloads, and here we go now. Prime time, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. This line of storms will mean business here. Greenbrier, Hot Springs, Little Rock, all getting hit between, say, 4 and 6 o'clock. Then those storms push out and you'll end up being in the clear. For Montgomery, Alabama, we know we've got the threat tonight with the flooding, right? But tornadoes are in our forecast tomorrow. From Montgomery to Greenville to Prattville to Selma, these places have an elevated risk for tornadoes. So there are your showers and storms tonight. These will be mostly flood-producing storms. But then tomorrow, what happens? Most of your day is in pretty good shape. 2 o'clock, now we're starting to see a few storms out there pop. And then we think the real big show comes in overnight tomorrow night with a really intense line coming through, Alex, 2 o'clock in the morning while most of us are sleeping.
That makes it even more dangerous. Well, coming up on the show, this multi-day event unfolding, and that danger, as Mike just said, is not going to go down at night. So we're going to discuss why now is the time to find and plan that safe spot in your home if a tornado threatens in the middle of the night. And of course, we are monitoring rain and thunderstorms out there right now, including parts of Alabama and into the state of Louisiana, where a severe warning is issued.
We're all spending
We log at the top of the world, a mile high into the mountains. And that's where some of the best logging is.
It's absolutely insane up here.
Careful, careful, careful.
There's lots of things that can go wrong. The mud just does not stop.
You can't stay on the road. You just hope you make it.
It's a battle against Mother Nature. It's not for everyone.
Let the fun begin.
All right, we're preparing for our first real big severe weather outbreak of the season. Right now, Torcon of a 7 for Huntsville, Alabama, 5 in Mobile, and a 3 in New Orleans. What exactly is a Torcon, though, you're asking? Okay, I get it. Numbers, the higher the number, the higher the threat. Is that what you're saying? Yes, it is what we're saying. And there's the legend at the top of your screen up here. 1 is minimal risk, 10 is the greatest risk, or a 100% chance you're going to get a tornado. So we've got a 7 tomorrow on our scale here across the South. So let's walk you through these numbers so you have an idea of what they mean. Let's start with a 3. Thunderstorms are likely at a 3. A few tornadoes are possible, not a guarantee. And tornado watches could be issued. The atmosphere may become favorable for tornadoes to form. Now, when you got a torque count of 5, now you're ratcheting it up a bit here. Dangerous weather anticipated. Tornado watches very likely. Strong tornadoes are possible. Could you see an EF2 or higher? It's possible. So I want you to monitor the weather forecast very, very closely. Torque count of 7. Now we're going to ratchet it up even higher, and so the threat is even higher. Now, numerous tornadoes, increased chance for strong tornadoes now of EF2 or greater. Some of those could be long track. They could stay on the ground for a long amount of time, damaging multiple locations. Be ready to take cover, and if a PDS watch is issued, that means a particularly dangerous situation. That means watches for long-lived intense tornadoes, and only about 3% of watches that are issued are PDSs. It's something that could be issued tomorrow, Alex.
Absolutely. And in addition to that threat of tornadoes, we are also watching for the threat of strong damaging winds. And I don't want you to think that that's not as bad as a tornado, because in many cases we can see these winds do just as much or more damage than tornadoes. Hey, you get a low-end tornado and a really violent severe wind event, you can actually see more damage from the wind event. Big problems when it comes to trees, where we have a lot of them. Parts of the southeast, we're watching the storms tomorrow. Threat for damaging winds tomorrow across parts of Arkansas, Louisiana, all the way over into Georgia. Again, a lot of trees in these areas, so if you are surrounded by them in your yard, really important that you find that safe spot within your house, because falling trees, I think, are going to be a big threat tomorrow. Wind damage, 45 to 57 mile per hour winds. Now, this isn't even severe criteria. This is sub-severe winds in terms of a severe thunderstorm warning. But even at this speed, trees can bend, small limbs can break, and cosmetic damage is possible to homes. A shutter blows off. You can lose a shingle. Once you're at 58 to 74 mile per hour winds, now this is the criteria at which the National Weather Service would issue a severe thunderstorm warning. Here, large limbs can break. We get shallow-rooted trees pushed over, so toppled, and also semi-trucks overturned. The winds don't necessarily stop there. We have seen strong storms produce winds 75 to 90 miles an hour. Here, widespread tree damage is likely, roof damage to homes, and weak structures may be sustaining significant damage. Not out of the question to even see winds stronger than that. In addition to wind, Dr. Nab, each and every one of these storms, even not storms, going to produce rain. And so we've got to talk about the flash flooding threat as well.
Yeah, so yet another reason to be staying off the roads tonight and especially tomorrow over a larger area than what we're experiencing flood-wise tonight in portions of Mississippi and Alabama, where the jet stream winds are blowing the storms from west to east right along a frontal boundary that is oriented west to east from Georgia to Oklahoma. And so we're getting training. Showers and thunderstorms moving over the same spots. You can see the overshooting tops here with the last few images of the day going over Mississippi, Alabama, where they've already had heavy rainfall over the last 24 hours. So where it's storming now, it has been storming, and we've had 3 to 6 inches of rainfall in a number of spots here in the southern portions of those states. So that means flooding. And we've got a number of areas under flash flood warning still in southeastern Mississippi, northeast of Hattiesburg, in the Waynesboro area. It has stopped raining, but the flood risk hasn't completely gone away because it takes a while for those low spots to completely drain. And then look at this huge area under a flash flood warning until 10:45 local time. It includes Butler, Thomasville, and Camden, Alabama. Alabama. This is west of Montgomery. A number of reports of water-covered roads in Alberta and Kimbrough and Pennington. Cars getting into trouble. As it gets dark, the threat will increase because it gets harder and harder to tell if there's water covering the road ahead of you. And then southeast of Montgomery, we've got a flood advisory in the Clayton area. This could be the precursor to a flash flood warning because it's still coming down really hard. And the Montgomery to Macon, even up to Atlanta, in the Marietta area, getting some locally heavy rainfall right now. This is the area with a risk for flood tonight. But tomorrow, Kansas City, St. Louis, Memphis, Nashville, Birmingham, Atlanta, all could have flash flood warnings in addition to the severe warning.
Just one more thing to follow. Dr. Knabb, thanks. Coming up, more on the timing and who's at risk tomorrow with the threat of significant long-track tornadoes and dangerous storms lasting into the overnight hours. And, of course, following the radar for you this evening as well, numerous storms across the south. Thunderstorms producing flooding in southern Alabama right now.
Welcome back into Weather Underground. New video for you out of El Paso, Texas. A dust storm today. Mountains on the left. You're just going to have to take my word for it because they're completely obscured. Mike, Dr. Knabb watching this and saying, hey, that low is kicking up the winds, and sure enough, kicking up the dust here in West Texas. As you would say, dusty Texas.
I was waiting, Wilson, for you to say it. You make fun of me for that all the time.
In dusty Texas. I love it. But there it is. There's that wind. For those of you not familiar, there's a very famous clip. Well, I don't know if it's very famous or if it was just used in a commercial a lot of Bettis going, in dusty Texas.
We got hit by one of those.
Yeah, you did.
We were out storm chasing one
You're
time.
familiar.
And, yeah, it was a face full of dust. There's no question.
Yeah, seeing that there on the visible satellite image. Welcome back into Weather Underground. Happy Tuesday for you. I'm Alex Wilson. He is Mike Bettis. Dr. Knabb with us as well. Mike, the big story today, though, is dangerous severe weather, and we think tomorrow could be a really significant day.
Maybe the most significant day of the year so far, and we're just really beginning the severe weather season, if you will. We've had quite a bit of flooding happening for us, in particular across the southeast. Alabama has been one of those places that's been hit pretty hard with the heavy rain today, and so you see images like this, and it really gives you pause. Why? Because, well, it's just beginning, right? And so we know with more days of heavy rain coming in, these waters are just going to go higher. And there's a little storm drain in there, and you can see the debris that's spiraling around, and that kind of reminds you, if you've got time, the weather's pretty good, maybe clear out storm drains around your home so that storm water can freely flow into those drains and not build up and flood your property. The storms that we're really concerned about have been down here, mostly south of I-20, but it's been southern Alabama in particular. But now some of these storms are getting a little feistier over into Georgia as well, as everything progs over in that direction. But severe storms are possible, I think, in particular over through Louisiana, Arkansas, and then maybe portions of Mississippi as well. But the cooler air has been up in here. You've been protected by what's known as the wedge, so the cold air has been spilling now southbound out of the east of the Appalachians, I should say. But the warm, moist, unstable air is all in this sector down here, and that's where a lot of those storms have flared. A lot of these storms will fire right even along that stationary front as well, while you'll get a little bit of lift in the atmosphere. There's a look at storms, especially in Thomasville. A lot of issues with flooding here, and over to Gaston as well. Choctaw, Clark, in Wilcox County are all under flash flood warnings right now. Even though it has stopped raining in Wayne County, you're under a flash flood warning right now. Some areas in Butler and Harmony reporting high water on the roadways. The best thing you can do is not travel tonight. If you do, though, and you encounter that high water, Alex, words to live by: turn around, don't drown.
Yes, exactly. And that's going to be something, we watch here in the coming days as well. In addition to flooding, the dangerous tornado threat tomorrow, I think, is going to be the most significant thing that we've got our eye on. Torcon of 7 for Memphis, for Birmingham, and for Jackson, Mississippi. That would mean a 7 out of 10. That's a high risk of not just, an isolated tornado, but we think we're going to be looking at tornadoes. And some of these could be strong. Some of these could be long track as well. So a significant severe weather danger tomorrow. That is to say, though, tornadoes most certainly on the table, but We'll also be watching for hail and gusty damaging winds too. Very likely severe weather threat across parts of Alabama, Mississippi, a little bit of Tennessee, Arkansas, and the state of Louisiana. Areas in red, we've got Torcons of 5. So again, even outside of that Torcon 7 zone, still watching for the likelihood of storms that are severe and could produce tornadoes. Large hail, damaging winds, tornadoes. I mentioned all modes of severe weather on the table tomorrow. We've got those turning of winds with height that could support supercell thunderstorm development. The supercell storms, the ones with the rotating updrafts. These are the storms that produce the large hail and many times produce the stronger tornadoes. That's not to say once we get our line of storms, we can't see some tornado spin-ups, but a lot of times it's the supercells that are producing those EF2 or greater tornadoes. We look at 11 o'clock in the morning. Plenty of activity on the radar across sections of the south, but the main area to watch back there into Arkansas, Louisiana, pushing east through the afternoon. Now here at this point, I think we're going to be looking at some supercells along that line and also out ahead of the line too. We'll be watching this begin to shift into more of a linear segment as we head towards the late evening and overnight. So I think damaging winds become the main threat during the overnight hours, along with tornado spin-ups. But Mike, it's going to be a really active day and night tomorrow.
All right, Alex, thank you. Coming up on Weather Underground, important information to help you make it through the next several days safely and to find the sturdiest spot in your home to take shelter. And of course, following that radar, again, very closely for you tonight. A lot of areas where thunderstorms are popping right now, including new thunderstorms that have popped up in the Atlanta area with rainfall rates 1.5 inches an hour.
The ups and downs.
Coming up right after Weather Underground, it's Heavy Rescue 401. Tonight, organized chaos as the crew scrambles to keep the roads open during a whiteout.
Visibility is like dropping by the minute. Cars are going into the ditches right now. Oh wow, he went in pretty good.
So right now I'm just trying to dig this car out so I can find something to hook on to. She's buried pretty good, so I don't want to wreck anything underneath. Oh, okay, that's deep.
This is really hard packed snow. This car is just wedged in there.
We can't even stop the traffic. They don't care enough to slow down for us. Oh, that was nasty on the face. Right now, I'm just trying to get something underneath this thing to, oh, there we go, to hook it. Okay, let's see if this thing will come out for us. Oh, come on. The cable's binding up. This is a horrible time for stuff to break on me.
It's getting really nasty, and the longer that I'm standing, the more chances of me getting hit.
Heavy Rescue 401 coming up next, right after Weather Underground at 8/7 Central.
I want to take you back a few days. Thornton, Colorado. We go back in time. Back when these cars just looked like big snowy lumps, right? This is the Denver metro area, by the way, where they saw over 2 feet of snow in some communities there. And more snow on the way. But before you get mad, it's not nearly going to be what we had over the weekend. We've got the light snow right now around the Denver metro area. You've noticed the passing snow showers as advertised. You know, we told you yesterday this was coming. It wasn't going to be a big deal. One area where I think we could see some heavier totals down into southern parts of Colorado and northern sections of the state of New Mexico. So snowfall totals still to come, 5 to 8, even some 8 to 12 inch totals in that zone up towards Denver. If any accumulation, 1 to 3 inches would be likely, 3 to 5 as you head into the mountains farther to the west of town. This is a quick hitter, though. We're going to be done with the snow around Denver by the time we head into the late evening, early overnight time frame. Maybe a few flurries left over by the time you wake up, but you can see that snow shifting really into parts of Kansas and Oklahoma, Texas by the time we head into tomorrow morning and around lunchtime. But really tomorrow, the main attention getter is going to be the stormy side of this. this. On the north side, there will be rain and storms, parts of the Midwest tomorrow and tomorrow night, even a little rain-snow mix around a place like Kansas City. By Thursday, we've got the rain, the thunderstorms across the Ohio Valley into the northeast. By Thursday night, actually mixing with a little snow through parts of Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Maryland, and our New England states. By Friday, we'll actually end with some snow showers up there in New York, in Boston, maybe even around Philly, a little snow or at least rain-snow mix. D.C. metro area likely to stay rain, but surrounding areas could get in on that rain-snow mix. So a shot of cool enough air that we end with some wintry precip. That's the story in Boston, where the high on Friday is 36 after topping out in the mid-50s Thursday. Friday night going to be a cold one, too, with a low around 22. So middle of March, post-St. Patrick's Day, while it may feel late for snow, feels late for that cold, it isn't really, right, Mike?
No, there's still a little bit of winter still to go here in the Northeast, and we know all too well we don't put our winter coats away usually until April Fools. Let's be honest, right? So there is some snow to come for most of us. It's light stuff, mostly an inch or less. There could be pockets where you pick up a little bit more than that. We do have some darker blue on this map where you could see as much as 3 inches of snow come your way. All right, so we thought we'd break down some stats for you here. How often do you get and how much snow do you get after St. Patrick's Day? Well, for Boston, the epicenter of St. Patrick's Day, you typically get 4.7 inches after St. Patrick's Day. That's still good for 11% of your snow for the season happens after St. Patrick's Day. Concord, we get over 7.5 in Portland. About 12% of your snow season is still to come. Historically, 6.8 inches in Worcester, but just 2.3 in Providence. Maybe we're under the influence of the ocean a little bit more here. So only about 7% historically of our snow season comes after St. Patrick's Day. Bangor, we're a little farther north, so we get a little bit more, about 8.2 inches. So you look at this map, and this is the snowfall that we've had since the beginning of the season, since September 1st, okay? Now, there's blue on there showing where you have a little bit of surplus, right? There's still plenty of brown on that map, though, showing where you have some deficits. So New York, we've had a surplus. Harrisburg, Albany, a little surplus for us here. Philly, a surplus. But there are also some places where we've not had that much snow this year, including, places like Portland, down double digits. Same in Burlington, down double digits in Buffalo, and a huge deficit in a place like Erie, where we've missed out on 32 inches we would normally get, Alex. We didn't hardly have any lake effect this year.
Absolutely. It's kind of been a missing story this winter, right? Well, coming up on Weather Underground, we're breaking down our severe weather threat tomorrow. We're also going to break down what you need to know about your home. Where's the safest spot to shelter if a tornado warning is issued? And what should you have in that shelter? Stay tuned.
Walter, did you know?
All right, welcome back, everyone, to Weather Underground as we follow severe weather for you this evening and what's going to happen for us over the course of the next several days as well. First things first, what's happening for us right now? We've got quite a line of storms that has formed here across Georgia, Alabama, and then back through Mississippi as well. Now, these storms have produced a ton of rain, and so flooding is really the imminent concern right now. We do have one severe thunderstorm warning back here in southern Mississippi, but it's kind of a loner at this point. But all these storms are training, or they're going over the same places over and over again. So flooding is the biggest issue, and a lot of flooding on the roadways right now. Some of those storms have now creeped over into Georgia. So around Macon, you have heavy rain with some thunderstorms. Columbus to Eufaula here, we've got some heavy rain and thunderstorms. Those will come across I-75. I think a place like Warner Robins, you're next in line. fine. Now, these storms around Camden and Thomasville in particular, we've been hit numerous times today. Choctaw, Clark, Wilcox County, all under flash flood warnings. That warning is until 10:45 this evening, so it goes on for several more hours, and there could be more storms that form, but eventually those storms are going to come over 65 and then 85 as well. Taking you back into Mississippi, this is going to be south of Jackson, Mississippi. So Jackson up in here. This is south of Crystal Springs and down I-55. Copiah County right now is under a severe thunderstorm warning. You're going to get some big hail with that. Look at the big lightning jump that we had with that, right? You see how the lightning strikes just really accelerate there. Pretty good indication you've got some cold air aloft and some hail that's being supported in these storms. But Georgetown and Hazelhurst, please be inside your home, inside a shelter tonight with this storm coming overhead. The warning expires at 7:45. Alex?
And there's still time left to prepare for tomorrow's tornado threat. That includes making sure your storm shelter is stocked with all the essentials. Dr. Knabb has a look at what you should have in your storm shelter emergency kit.
We need to fantasize a reality a little bit here, and I want you to think about what it would really be like if a tornado hit your home or strong winds brought a tree down onto your home while you're in it. Now, this applies to whether or not you have one of those FEMA approved safe rooms that we've talked about, but if you just have a safest spot in your home that you're going to go to, all of you need to have most of these supplies. Now, if you don't have one of those FEMA safe rooms, you want to have down in your shelter or bring down there when you go some extra protection to live through the tornado because, again, the house might be crumbling around you and a little extra protection from a big mattress. Now, this is one of those inflatable ones that you can leave it uninflated down in the shelter, and then when there's a tornado watch or whatever issue to go blow it up. And this can provide extra shelter from flying debris that could be coming at you. Also, for every person down there, adults and kids, bicycle helmets. This can really protect you from flying debris when things fall down. Now, for everybody, whether or not you're in a safe room or not, you want to have the rest of this with you. This is a multi-band weather radio. It has AM, FM, and NOAA weather radio because, you know, if power goes out, you're not going to be listening to the television, and if your cell signals go out, this is going to be really, really useful. And this doubles, by the way, as a portable cell phone charger because it has a USB port down here on the bottom. So you charge it with this cable, but then your cell phone can plug into this and charge remotely without the power being on in your home. Now, imagine if things fell down in your home. What do you want to have? You want to be able to see because the power might go out, and you want to have portable lighting so you can see what's going on. You should have very sturdy shoes because if you have to walk out of a damaged or nearly destroyed home, you're going to be stepping on pieces of your home, sharp objects. Same thing why you want to have the gloves. And if your home is really heavily damaged, you want to be ready for rain on you as you're in that area waiting for help. So have rain jackets, even a hammer to break yourself out of crumbled debris around you, and a whistle to, you know, signal for help. And if one of you is injured while the tornado has gone by, you want to have a first aid kit so you can tend to yourself while you're waiting for help to come. And if you're trapped in a damaged home, can you imagine what if you can't get to the rest of your home or you don't know where your really critical prescription drugs have gone? Fire extinguisher in case a fire breaks out, and put all those important insurance documents in a fireproof, waterproof container, maybe down in your shelter so you can take it with you for the insurance claim.
All important stuff to have. And if you don't have a shelter in your home, check with your local county office to find out where public shelters are located. For example, Lafayette County, Mississippi, the fire department tweeted out a link to this page that lists all the tornado shelters in the area so you can find one near your neighborhood. If you've got a friend with a sturdy shelter, maybe you've got a relative or a friend who you know is in a not safe spot, offer them a safe place to ride out the storms. Mike has an update on tomorrow's threat as well as tonight's just after this.
All right, let's update you on our current weather and our top stories here for the next 24+ hours. Active storms tonight across the south, including storms especially here in Georgia and Alabama, causing some flooding for us tonight. One severe thunderstorm warning in Mississippi. It's going to stay very active across the south for the remainder of the night. This is the area most likely to get flooding tonight as well. Numerous streets being reported with high water. Then tomorrow, not only a flood risk, but a tornado risk. Higher torcons tomorrow, highest of the year, a 7 here across the Mid-South and the Deep South. So an elevated risk for tornadoes tomorrow. Some of those could be very violent. Some of those could be long track. Let's time it out for you. 7 o'clock in the morning near Dallas, Kansas City, and Joplin. Getting hit here in northern Arkansas and then around, say, Huntsville, Alabama. Let's take it through noon tomorrow. Shreveport and Texarkana. Paducah getting hit through the boot heel of Missouri and now working its way into the upstate of South Carolina. Through 4 o'clock, ripping through Arkansas and then down through Louisiana. Individual discrete supercells across Mississippi and Alabama that could be producing tornadoes. Intense squall line Memphis down through Jackson. Birmingham getting hit through the evening. And then overnight, 6 o'clock in the morning, the squall line comes to Atlanta, passes through Montgomery. Then on Thursday, guess what happens? All that shifts in through the Carolinas. Well, that's the very latest here from Weather Underground. We hope you have a great night. Remember, together we know more. Be safe, folks. We'll be right back here tomorrow.